Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. And my name is Emilio Gil. I'm professor at Polytechnic University of Catalonia in Barcelona and project coordinator of Innoseta. I'm really honored to organize and try to coordinate this very, I hope, interesting online event where 10 EU projects, all of those running already inside Europe, all of those focused in the amazing topic of food production in agriculture. In general, we are here to discuss, to share opinions, to share objectives, and to share problems. So I would like to especially thanks a lot to all the online participants representing the 10 projects we are here. And also a special thanks to Inge van Oost from DG Agri for sharing with us her experience and sharing with all of you her experience and knowledge, and as you will see right now. The event has been right now in streaming through YouTube channel, and I would like to welcome all the attendants through YouTube. As you know, you can write your comments, suggestions, questions, or whatever, and we will try all together to answer you. So thanks a lot. I hope that this will be one of the latest online events, because hopefully the COVID situation will be improving day by day, and the next one will be face-to-face. So we have a program for about 3 hours, and the idea, Jorge, could you share my first presentation? So I would like to, thanks to my friends from Zaragoza, Jorge, who are in charge to streaming this activity online through the YouTube, right? We selected this title, Joining Efforts and Ideas to Improve Education in Agriculture, because most of the projects, or all of the projects, were more or less linked also with research, but we firmly believe about education and training, that within the training is really one of the most important topics. So the contents and the structure of this afternoon will be as follows. Next slide, please, Jorge. As I told you, first, in Europe, we have plenty of new initiatives and activities, and the European Commission is financing a lot of projects focused, in this case, in aspects related with food safety, with food quality, also with sustainability, and more or less linked with the training and education. And that was the idea of the one we thought about to organize this activity. Next slide, please. So we can see we can have research projects, information projects, or dissemination projects, also education, and more focused on training activities. From all together, what we can do, or what we expected to do, is more or less give some ideas or some suggestions about through the responsible of the EU policies in order to create better day after day, improve the policy legislation and the policy frame in Europe concerning the food production, concerning the food safety, and more specifically in some of the cases concerning the use of crop protection, linked in all those cases with not only with the Sustainable Use Directive, but the recently Green Deal, with the Farm to Fork strategy, and so on. But at the same time, we as a project responsible, we are in charge to be in contact with the most important stakeholders all around the topic. And the final users, as you can see in the picture, are farmers, but not only big farmers, but also small and medium farmers, small and medium farms that are really important in our conditions in Europe. Next slide, please. So I'm really proud to, I'm really glad, and I'm happy to tell you that we have on board right now this afternoon 10 projects. You can see the logos there, coming from different specialties, coming from different activities. One of those projects, some of those are close to the end, some of those are close to the starting point, and in some cases we have similitudes, we have the differences, and that's the reason I think we are going to have a very nice experience. And then the idea of this afternoon is as follows. Next slide, please. Again, just before to describe how it will work the afternoon, our main concern is that all of us, we are working more or less in agriculture and with agricultural stakeholders. And in the last case, the last part of the chain, with farmers. And this is something very special. This target is completely different than the other ones, and it's a challenge for most of us. But I have some questions that I hope we will have some answers or some ideas after around 6 in the afternoon. So concerning the EU projects we are running right now. So what after the project deadline? So Link, talking about sustainability, is there any sense to spend a lot of money in create something that after 3 or 4 years will be in some box? I don't know, this is a question I already put over the table. So what's about farmers' adoption of all the developments we are creating? In most of the cases you will see during the presentation of my colleagues, most of us, we are talking about filling the gap between farmers and research, filling the gap between research and industrial and so on and so on. So how to fill those gaps. And also you will see that we have some overlapping. Sometimes are positive overlapping, but sometimes we are trying to do things several times at a time, and this is no sense. So positive or negative. Those are the main questions on the air, together with the ones we will show you later on. So next slide, please. So this is how we'll work the structure this afternoon. So in a couple of minutes, it will be my pleasure to give the floor to Inge van Oost from DG Agri, and she will talk us about agriculture knowledge and innovation systems in the Common Agriculture Policy and Horizon Europe post-2020. So it's really important. Don't forget that training and education are the key points, and one of the best in class in this topic is Inge. So thanks for sharing your time with us. So after her presentation, we will have 2 different parts in the afternoon where our colleagues will present a quick flash of their different projects. As we have 10 projects, we will divide in 2 parts. First, 5 projects will be presented, then we will make a short coffee break. Unfortunately, I cannot invite you for coffee, but sometimes we'll do. And then after the coffee, the other 5 projects. Then our colleague Fabrizio from University of Turin, UNITO, one of the partners of Innoseta project, will show you the results obtained after the questionnaire we already arranged among the involved projects. And finally, and the most important from my point of view, we will start a discussion, debate, ideas, and so on. The main goal, one of the goals of this activity will be to produce a kind of a resume or leaflet or deliverable or whatever you consider, where we will collect all the information, all the ideas, and all the suggestions we could hypothetically obtain after this very interesting afternoon. So I think next slide is the very last one. So, but as again, we are right now through our Innoseta YouTube channel, and I would like to thank you again very much for the active participation of all the project representatives, but also and especially very welcome to the online attendance. Please feel free to write your questions, comments, and so on. And now it's a pleasure for me to give the floor to Inge van Oost. She is very well known as one of the key persons in the DG Agri, really involved since years in aspects linked to with education and training. And when I asked about the possibility to participate in this event, she immediately says, agreed, and said yes. So Inge, the floor is yours. Feel free and welcome.
So, good afternoon, Emilio. Thanks a lot for inviting me. Indeed, I'm running around for now, it will be 11 years in the surroundings of trying to bridge the gap, as you said, between research and practice, and not to put results after the project in the box. That's exactly what my big aim is in all the work that it brings along, of course. And I was very happy to hear you also speak about education and training, because it's not just to have it on a website. It really has to be close to the farmers. And I would say education, training, and advice. Also, advisors should profit from it and bring it to their clients. Now, I will share my screen and hope everything works well. Let's see. So, according to my instructions here, you should be able to see it.
Yes, we do.
Okay, good. Then we can go ahead. I wanted to give you a first, or for some people in our audience, probably not the first, but it's so important because it will determine a bit the future, at least the first 7 years, and probably much longer. An explanation about our step towards agriculture knowledge and innovation systems. And the word system already says that we want to go away from just funding projects and then having some outcomes, a website that stops after a few years. And we want to have more longevity of everything which is so well produced by you all. So what does it mean, AKIS? AKIS is in fact the combination of all the people who are using and producing knowledge and innovation for agriculture and interrelated fields. And you will see a little bit later that this goes very broad. But the essence of AKIS is all about the interaction between those persons, how they are organized, how they are meeting each other on a regular basis and exchanging knowledge, so that knowledge is being kept alive in a public way. The reason why the AKIS policy, in fact, was put in the CAP is because of a foresight study which warned us that if we don't act as a European Union, all knowledge will be privatized, because companies can pay for the knowledge and they like to keep the knowledge for themselves because it's a way of selling things together with the knowledge. So we are going to try to make it more public, more shared, and also get everybody involved as possible. And of course, our main players are the farmers, the foresters, the advisors, researchers, farmers' organizations or other organizations, cooperatives, NGOs, networks, retailers also, up until media, but the ministries are important, and also consumers at the end. And the idea is to create a regional or national innovation ecosystem by working on these knowledge flows and improving it. And there's a little link that's an 8-pager where you can read more about what is AKIS, why, and what are its main components. But I hope after this presentation you will have a view on this. Now, one of the difficulties with our AKIS is that it started in 2006 with the A of AKIS, and A means agriculture, but it has, of course, over these more than 15 years evolved. Agriculture is certainly not standing on its own. It's connected not only with the rural areas in which it lies, but also environment, climate, biodiversity, the landscape, the consumers and the citizens, the short supply chains for food or for non-food, the systems, including also processing, distribution chains. So it goes very wide. And we had several times the suggestion, shouldn't you take away the A? But it's a bit like Coca-Cola. You don't change the label once that everybody knows it. It's now the 16th year, I think, that AKIS well, how should I say, is known. It comes from, in fact, the researchers themselves from the Standing Committee of Agricultural Research, who stated that the classical linear research model, the researcher develops something, the advisor picks it up, if there are advisors in whatever the research is doing, and then it should flow automatically to the farmer who picks it up. But farmers have become much more educated. They don't take things for granted. They want interaction and discussion if it really fits for their farm, and that's a good thing. So this linear system is becoming a bit more difficult. So we've looked through a study, the Pro-AKIS study in 2014, how AKISs look like in Europe. And you can see, if you look from the left side, the most fragmented one, like Greece, Portugal, Romania, but also, which might surprise you, the United Kingdom and the Netherlands are working a lot in silos. They are sometimes strong, meaning there's a lot of money going into research, but it stays in silos. They don't interconnect. They stay fragmented. Whereas, of course, you also have some weak AKISs, meaning there's not a lot of money going in it, and also they are working all in silos. So those are the ones here. And then if you go to the other side of the scale, you have these very integrated, and most of the time, if they are very well interconnected, it's also because a lot of investment has been done. So they are here at the bottom, the stronger, and it's not that these countries don't think they can improve. These are sometimes the most inventive ones to find new ways to interconnect. But these are then the countries who are better integrated and also profit from a lot of investment in them. So this was, of course, the situation 2014. I must say, through the EIP, through the thematic networks, through the multi-actor project, since then a lot has changed because the different actors needed to work together. So this at a certain moment will be updated, but it gives still the big lines of how the situation still today is. But it's of course not a precise scientific work. It is an estimation based on the number of criteria. So why do we have this focus on AKIS? And it's all in this sentence here below. The picture gives you a view on all the people who are there and who are important for AKIS, researchers, advisors, education, businesses, organizations, media, and of course we forgot some. It's not complete, but a good AKIS strategy, which now member states have to do in the new CAP, will bring together actors on a structured and regular basis, so that researchers get to know advisors, get to know farmers, so that it's much more easy to go ahead together in a project. So there's a need for a long-term connective phase, so that you have this continuous interaction to speed up knowledge exchange, of course. What are the needs of the farmers? What is the offer from research? Ensure that these flows are staying alive and that we co-create innovation in this way. And most of all, by co-creation of innovation, we ensure that what is done by so many researchers and so many now also other actors is really implemented into practice, because it's more applicable and more easy to apply. So the move that we are doing is, on the one hand, we continue our operational groups, our multi-actor projects, our thematic networks, but we also change, we add. If you look where we are now, in this 7 years period that is now prolonged because the CAP regulation was not agreed upon, we have 2 extra years, plus then a transition phase until the projects have to really give in their invoices. We still have 4.5 years to go. And we see that almost all member states took it up. They were quite keen in engaging in this EIP Agri with the operation groups, 3,000, more than 3,000 planned. And we see that for these 2 transitional years that even more are coming in. And under Horizon 2020, our former framework project, which is finished now, we had in total 190 multi-actor projects. So 1 billion euro went into this interactive format of projects. So what is the result? We see it's a growing and thriving network. People are happy with it. They see the advantages. But on the other hand, we also see coming an increasing volume of practice-oriented knowledge. And there is no place for research. You have scientific abstracts, a number of scientific journals. So we need also to create a place where we can keep alive on the longer term, beyond the project period, beyond the time that the website of the project is there, that we can keep it and preserve it and present it and adapt it, etc. So in our operational group projects, we already have a lot of kind of topics. Everything can come in, it's bottom up. But without pushing anything from above, we see that we're already doing this Green Deal avant la lettre. We have 65% of our operational groups who are already working on environment climate issues. So people know very well, or managing authorities, or those who pick up in a bottom-up call the challenge to start an operational group, they know very well where are the difficulties. And the same thing with thematic networks, also bottom-up under Horizon, also bottom-up subject, but typically the things that really need care, like new entrants, HNV areas, soil, antimicrobial resistance, so things that are really the big challenges of the future, they come out. And we see that this flexible system, which is not always appreciated in the Commission, because usually we set the rules and people have to follow, and here we are very, very open and very flexible. But it works. It even works as a test bed, our operational groups, for cap measures. The Irish have invented the idea, and we see it's being picked up by other member states, that in a multi-actor way, you prepare for new cap measures. So you can influence also in this way the policy. So I already explained before, we only funded innovative project, and now we will have this AKIS system, which will systematically interlink people and projects. The issue was how to find each other, and until now, on the one hand, we had our cap regulation, where we had multi-actor, say, operational groups. We paid for the preparation, we paid for the projects themselves, and also for innovation support services. So intermediates, advisors, whoever, also the CAP networks did this, who helped people to come together and to form an operational group and to draft a nice project. And on the other hand, we have the European projects, the usual ones, where there's no need to be multi-actor. That's when you develop a vaccine in a laboratory, you don't need to have a farmer with you. So we continued on the one hand with the research project, but as you saw, we also put until now already 1 billion in multi-actor project. And the most multi-actor project possible, I would say, have been our thematic networks. And that's why I didn't hesitate to say yes to Emilio to come here, because this has been a real success. People are very happy with thematic networks. And it was a bit difficult because there were plenty of other issues in 2021 in the call for Horizon Europe to put in, but thematic networks could not be there. So there was a real call to have them, and we've even doubled them. I will explain that later to you. So in these multi-actor projects, you know all of this, thematic networks know that. It's good that you try as much as possible to involve those operational groups, but this was sometimes a challenge. In the beginning, simply because the operational groups weren't there yet. The programs were not approved, the national legislation was not there, the call was not finished. So the first 3 years, it was really difficult to find operational groups. But gradually, the EIP networks, the NRNs in the member states, they started to work on this, to connect people, to have databases. And also we at EU level with the EIP Agri Service Point, we collected all the projects on one big repository where you can find not only in 20 lines what each of these projects does or what is a useful outcome for practice, but also who is working on that. And you can take contact with people who are maybe doing similar things as you are. Now, the scheme for the future CAP will be as following. We have 3 CAP objectives that are linked to competitiveness, viable income, power in the food chain. We have 3 objectives that are linked to climate, environment, biodiversity, and landscapes, and then 3 on generation renewal, rural areas, and citizens' concerns on food and health and quality. And our operational groups, and equally AKIS, will cover all of these 9 objectives. So even if the name of the EIP stays the same, it will still be agricultural productivity and sustainability. We will do much more than that if you see all these objectives here. And this is our principle, which you probably all know, the interactive innovation model. Here in the middle of this slide, you ensure that you have a variety of actors, and it's not the more the merrier. No, you need the right ones to make the best use of their complementary types of knowledge from science, from practice, maybe entrepreneurial, organizational knowledge, in view of working together all along the projects, co-creating, and by having also kind of multipliers like advisors or organizations, you will also much more spread quickly the solutions, and they will be more ready to implement in practice. And this is in just 4 lines, 5 lines here, because I put my font so big, a summary of what is our principles along which we are working. I already mentioned that there's also the network, of course, supporting that with a number of events and the reservoir on the website, etc. What is new in the new CAP is that, in particular, from this big AKIS, we want to see how they are going to improve. Member states are going to improve the organizational setup. They have to do first a strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threat analysis. And based on that, they will have to decide which are our biggest needs, which gaps do we have. And based on that, they will have to make a number of interventions that help this AKIS to work better. And in particular, we added this line here because we think that advisors are very close to farmers and influence a lot their behavior. Researchers are, of course, key to developing knowledge. And the CAP networks, they are interacting a lot, and they have access to what happens in the other countries, and they can work with outcomes of thematic networks, multi-actor projects, operational groups, bring this to their countries, translate it, pick up the most interesting things for their countries. So we want that those 3 in particular, it's not a full AKIS, but those 3 in particular will really have to work together. So we want to see that in the future CAP plans in the AKIS part. And the result will be that we have better advice. Advisors will be better informed on the latest knowledge and innovation. And we also want that there is support for bringing people together for multi-actor projects, for thematic networks, for operational groups, because we've seen through evaluations that this is a key thing. And then on top of this, we also have digital coming up and a lot of things we can do now much better and much more with digital than 7 years ago. And then, as I said, advisors will be quite important. We want to integrate them in the AKIS in an inclusive way. All advisors, public, private, big companies, one-man companies, because they need to be able to cover the whole sustainability, not just the economic part or the technical part, let's say, but also the environmental and the social dimensions, because farmers cannot escape them anymore. They are under climate change. They are linked to a number of environmental regulations and issues. So this must be part of what they know, and they have to organize themselves. It's not easy as one person to know everything. So we expect some kind of back offices or specialist advisors in countries so that they can deliver up-to-date technological and scientific information developed by research and innovation to these advisors to help them, the farmers, to learn all about this. And of course, and I repeat it because it's very important, including training and education. It's also the first time. I tried it 7 years ago and it didn't work. But now everybody agreed that advisors must be impartial. So not there to sell their product. That should be paid by the company. It's fine. They are part of the AKIS. But we need also impartial advisors so that the knowledge can be kept public. That's very important. And they should also be able to provide innovation support for these operational groups. So this is a bit our toolbox, and where are we? The posts we have now, just last week, the big agreement with some happy, some less happy. But the CAP will start, the new CAP will start in 2023. We have a few bits and pieces still to finish, but on the AKIS elements, we are fine. Everything is agreed. That was not an issue. We've always been very appreciated by the Parliament, appreciated by the Council, what we did for AKIS. So there will be no changes anymore in what I'm presenting to you today. So what are our tools? I'm going to be a bit quickly. It's, as I said, farm advice. It's more knowledge exchange events, information events, training, advice, demonstration, etc. This obligation for innovation support I mentioned. The CAP networks will have a more important role because they will be able to connect existing operational groups that might then grow out into a thematic network. And also they will need to interact better with Horizon Europe. Maybe, probably, I would say, to the national contact points, but there are certainly more ways to interact better with Horizon Europe. This is a bit what we are still missing now. And it's maybe normal because in the beginning, the researchers didn't find the operational groups. The member states were still constructing their websites and constructing the whole operational group measure. But we had a seminar, which is not on the website yet. It will be July, because we're just in between two periods. But we are expecting that the CAP networks become much more active. And then, of course, for the operational groups, things will become more attractive. They will have more EU co-financing, 80% instead of 43%. They will be able to have advance payments, which will enable also people with less deep pockets like farmers or NGOs or whoever to start up. They can ask up until 50% advance payments. So more bottom-up ideas will come in, and they will have a state aid derogation. Because of the state aid, there was a lot on Annex 1 on food only, while now, as you saw, we have all these objectives. It will be possible to also cover consumer relations, short supply chains, or generation renewal, etc. So we will be able to cover without any problem much more projects thanks to this state aid derogation, which will be published in a month or so. Now, we expect the strategic plans to come to us, Commission, by the 1st of January next year. So we are very busy at this moment with a lot of questions from member states who are making their CAP strategic plans now. So if you want to influence that at your level, in your country, in your region, this is the moment, because they are making their plans now. Now, I didn't want to go into all the actions under AKIS strategic approach, because that's a very long list. I just give you the 4 big lines. It is about enhancing knowledge flows and strengthening links between research and practice. It's about strengthening these farm advisors' interaction within the member states' AKIS. Of course, our operational groups, our multi-actor projects, our thematic networks, to give even more incentives there. We can have now cross-border operational groups, transnational calls, innovation support, etc. And then last but not least, with digital transition, and you will see for the knowledge reservoir, that's going to be very important. There's also new possibilities. Now, as I said, CAP networks should be a bit the interlinkage between the country level, where the AKISs will be improved, and then the European level, and also will act within the country much better. They would need to collect and share the outcomes of all operational groups within Europe, of all these multi-actor projects, including translating and filtering what is most useful for their country. Connect better, we already said, with Horizon projects. So keep their inventory of operational groups and advisors up to date, because if they have an inventory of advisors, it will be more easy for researchers to find them and to include them in their projects. And they will have plenty of material for all kinds of events and the actors within the AKIS that they can help. And as you see, education and training is certainly not forgotten. Also, media can play a very important role here. Our simple agriculture journals, but also TV is there in some countries. Many other media, it depends a bit case by case. So it's very important to reflect very well what is now needed, which future interventions do we need, and brainstorm while the CAP plans are being made. Now, I'm coming towards the end. As I said, our networks will need to be closer working with Europe, Horizon Europe, national contact points, make sure that the operation groups are easy visible for you as researchers, that you can find them, and maybe also categorize them in a kind of thematic way that it's easier to go through, because we will have more and more. On the other hand, it would also be useful that when there is a call, that maybe they organize some brokering events or bring some people together at the moment of the call. I think that would be a very useful exercise. And not to forget, once your projects are running, maybe new operational groups during this 4 or 5 years period might arise. And then we hope that these networks take up their role and say, listen, in your subject here, your multi-actor subject, there's an operation group working on the same subject. And then from our side, first of all, I should say already member states are creating databases that have all what I was talking about already in their database. We have it in Germany, in France, in the Netherlands, even in Lithuania. But the thing will be now that they should be interoperable with what we are building at EU level. And I'm very happy later on, I think Peter or somebody of his group will speak about URACNOS and Eureka, because these are the projects that are really preparing this EU knowledge reservoir, so that at EU level we have an increasing volume of practice-oriented knowledge, which should become easy, accessible and searchable, multilingual, very important for farmers and advisors. They don't speak English, researchers do, but farmers and advisors often don't. Interactive and attractive with a lot of YouTube and photos and easy ways to digest all the material that is there. And I just show this. I think there will be more information about that because I want to draw your attention to this search filter, which would be an intelligence search, not just a word search, but an intelligence search. We drafted a Horizon project in particular for that. It should be multilingual, should be quantifiable so that you can see a little bit like the high impact factor in scientific publications, that you can see, this is something that has really drawn interest from a lot of people, so it must be something interesting. And this can also be very important for the rewarding of researchers, because if your work has many likes, it works for booking.com, so why wouldn't it work for us? If your work has many likes, it means that there's definitely something interesting. And there's also the possibility there should be, because it's a feasibility study and the real work will now be done in the next 2 years. Comments are possible, that there is interaction also through this what they call farm book or whatever it will be called. So this is what is coming on. And then a very short, because I'm probably speaking to a lot of researchers, very short one slide on what is at stake in Call 2021. First of all, we're very happy to announce that our multi-actor approach is now usable across the whole cluster 6, meaning for biodiversity projects, ecosystem services, the food systems, the circular economy and bioeconomy, the clean environment and zero pollution projects, also the marine and the water projects, and the urban community related projects. So here we all have possibility, and I was very surprised to see, because the work program is still very young, it's just published. We're counting now how many multi-actor projects we have before the info day next week, and it has really been taken up by people who drafted topics for the first time, multi-actors. So we're really very happy with that. Now, with regard to AKIS, we have in destination, well, section 7, you could call it, a section that is called Fostering Innovative Governance. And here are the projects that are related to AKIS. So we have projects on AKIS co-creation and networking among member states. Why? Because all member states have to now, and they can learn from each other. So this should happen in that project. We have another topic on how, so again, we will have the usual thematic networks. We didn't change maybe a word or two, I don't know, but you know it, and it will stay there, 5 projects per year. It's such a success that we, along the 7 years period, we just are going to continue. But interesting to know is that we have a new additional type of thematic networks, where thematic networks will grow from operational groups. So where I think it was 5 operational groups from 3, and that's the rule for Horizon Europe, 3 different countries have a common theme. They would be incentivized to, from that, build thematic networks. And that's additional to the usual thematic networks. I think in the first year we put 3 because it's a test, it's something new. Maybe operational groups are not going to do that. Let's hope they do, but it's the same as thematic networks when we started. I still remember my Director General saying, thematic networks, existing research, that's not research. Who is going to do this? Nobody will want to do this. But as I see, there are plenty of them, and we always have 30, 35, even 45 in the last time. So we can really choose the very best from the offer of proposals that come in. And let's hope the same will happen now with our new thematic networks growing from operational groups. And we also will bring in, we already tested with 2 advisory networks, one on digital advisory tools and one on innovation support, but we will continue with advisory networks, so EU networks where advisors are interconnected. And the one in the call 2021 will be on short supply chains. Next year, there will be one on water. So we will see, maybe we will even expand that. We already had further questions, maybe we'll do more than one per year. That's to be decided in a number of months when we discuss the call 2021 and then work program 2023 and 4. So what we are looking forward to is something that is change. And Jean Monnet in 1945, when Europe was founded, said, what is stopping us is the fear of change, but nevertheless, it's on change that our salvation depends, and it will be much the same with our AKIS. We need to be interconnected. We have so much challenges to solve. I have a slide here where you can find further info, a lot of interesting info in the SCAR AKIS report. That's from the Standing Committee of Agricultural Research. They have a dedicated group who's working on that. And in this group, we regularly invite also projects. So just to hear how practice is going, what are the tips and tricks or the do's or don'ts. So this is a group that is very active and following all that. And they drafted a very useful report, which was in fact a bit the basis for our AKIS policy. And there's also a simple way of presenting what is AKIS through this animated infographic. And then you will also find these webinars on the EIP Agri website. And I skipped the one, no, it's here. We also had an AKIS seminar of 2.5 days with a lot of information in there. I'm not going to read it all out. You have the link, you can take a look. We have 10 nice examples of AKIS measures. So if you want to take your time to take a look, and we do all this to link up these AKISs across the EU to speed up creativity and practice application instead of putting your project results in a cupboard, and to improve the connectivity across Europe so that we can profit from each other's work and that the information is better circulating. So it's not going to happen by itself. Maybe you will need a little sheepdog to get up the sheep running. But I thank you for your attention, and for you in particular for all the work that you have done in your thematic networks. And this is the end of my story. And there's, of course, if you wish, if there is time, I don't think so, to be honest, I've probably talked too long, but I will say a little bit with you in case of questions.
Thank you very much, Inge, for this excellent presentation and very detailed presentation. Of course, it's plenty of very useful information, and I'm really happy to see how important is education and training and the relationships. I'm not able to see the comments or suggestions from the audience, but maybe Elena or Jorge, if there is any comment you can share with us. If not, maybe we could say for the end of the presentation, because the attendants through the YouTube, they have the possibility to share their comments. Inge, thanks a lot. We have a lot of information from your presentation, and we will be absolutely updated. And now it's time to continue, as I already mentioned to you, and Inge already mentioned some of the ongoing projects. We have now time for 5 different projects, where I really ask to the presenters to give a quick overview, around 8-10 minutes each of the projects. And the first one on the list, it's a pleasure for me to present Dr. Teresa Hooks, who is going to present the FairShare project. So Teresa, I think the camera will be with you. In a few minutes, you can turn on your camera and the floor is yours.
Hi, Emilio. Thank you very much for that introduction. So if you can share my slides there, and I'll introduce everyone to the FairShare project. Excellent. Okay, so first and foremost, thanks to Emilio and all the colleagues in Innoseta for asking us to be a part of the lineup today. So I am the project manager of the FairShare project, and I'm just going to give you a brief overview of what FairShare is and what it's about, and to give you some of the recommendations, I suppose, from FairShare's perspective in terms of improving education in agriculture. So next slide, please. So FairShare, first and foremost, it's a coordination and support action project. So we aim to support action through our project, and we fall under that topic of enabling the farm advisory community to prepare farmers for the digital age. So as you can see from our acronym FairShare, we're looking to make tools for farm advisors findable, available, interoperable, reusable, and shareable. Next slide, please. So FairShare is a 5-year, €7 million funded project. So we're just at about the halfway mark at the moment. And we have 22 partners then from across 15 countries in Europe. And these have a mix of research organization, advisory organizations, and a number of third parties in there. So we have quite a good network and interaction with advisors across Europe. And it's coordinated here by Teagasc in Ireland. But what FairShare aims to do overall is to ensure that farm advisors effectively use digital tools and services to support a more productive and sustainable agriculture into the future. Next slide. So what are some of the drivers then for digitalization within our advisory services? So there's a number of push and pull factors. So some of them could be demand from farmers for better or more specific advice so that they can enable better decision making. And there's that demand from advisors as well to be able to support their farmer clients in this way to make better decisions. In terms of policymaker and society in general, there's also that push for digitalization and data in terms of agricultural production and the quality of products, that what's stated can actually be backed up with evidence as such. And of course, in terms of our administration processes, there's always a kind of push to try and make them more efficient, more time saving and more resource saving in that sense. And of course, the advance of low cost digital technology is a huge pull factor as well. And I think we've seen over the last year and a half with COVID has been quite a huge catalyst in that sense. And that has really pushed digitalization to the forefront. And I think if anyone attended the ESEE conference last week, they would have seen a lot of examples of that in terms of advisors actually using digital technologies to maintain that connection with farmers on the ground. So what FairShare aims to do is to bridge that digital divide that exists among advisors and advisory communities and also among the farmers. So if we look at this graphic on the left and you see in this red kind of circle, these are some of the factors that are often put forward for the digital divide within agriculture. So it's often that digital technologies or tools are too expensive, or people are unsure, farmers and advisors unsure what's available or how they're relevant or how they can add value to their enterprises for farmers. Also, it's often that they're a bit too difficult perhaps or complex. Indeed, as we know, farms are generally based in rural areas, so connectivity can be a huge issue there. And then, of course, the different motivational factors for why or how they might actually use digital tools. So what FairShare is aiming to do is to try and build that bridge that advisors and farmers can all benefit from digital technologies. So what we're aiming to achieve is to have more farmers participating in the digital age. And to do that, we're focusing on increasing the use of digital tools among advisors. So as Inge said, advisors are often seen as a key support agent in terms of embedding innovations and digital technologies with farmers. So if we can increase the use among the advisory community, they can thereby advocate for their use at farm level and embed them in a more practical sense with farmers. So FairShare has a number, if you can just go back to the slide, sorry. So FairShare has a number of objectives But two of our main objectives, I suppose, are firstly to increase awareness and availability of existing digital advisory tools and services, or DATs as we refer to them in FairShare. So we're very much so focused on sharing what's already out there. So we're not about trying to develop brand new tools from scratch, but about showing what is already in existence. And then we're also trying to support the practical use and adaptation of these existing tools through user cases or living labs, as some people may know them, across Europe. And that's adopting a multi-actor approach and essentially trying to embed the use of these tools across the different contexts then in the advisory communities. Next slide. So in terms of our first objective and increasing the awareness of DATs, we can see that there are different categories of DATs out there. So we've categorized them into three main ones in terms of communications tools. So these can be something that's very simplistic in terms of your WhatsApp or mobile phones or emails or social media. And then there's more sophisticated tools in terms of the e-services. So these can be analysis and benchmarking tools. They might be measuring grass, nutrient management planning, or e-mapping tools. And then indeed there's organizational tools which aim to streamline those administration processes and manage that customer relationship management also. So next slide. So a key part of our work, right now, sorry, one of the images hasn't come up on the right, but the key part of our work is developing a FairShare DATS inventory, which is an EU-wide inventory to share basically all these existing tools that are out there. So there's different categories of tools within there. You can find the different languages in which they're available, the benefits, and the target users. And to date, we've collected over 227 of these. You can see from the graphic on the left, the number of tools that are collected from each country. And you can log on to h2020fairshare.eu and see the inventory. Apologies that image hasn't come up, but if you take a look and see, you can see what tools are actually already out there. And I would urge anyone who hasn't visited it today to please do so today or when they can. And if you are using a tool or have knowledge of a tool that's not already there, please get in contact with us, because our inventory is an ever-growing process. So we're trying to upgrade it all the time and add to it. So we would really like to be able to add more tools onto it as we can. So next slide. And then our second objective then, as I said, is to support the practical use of these DATs, and that's through our user cases. So the user cases, they essentially adopt a multi-actor approach to co-design their own solutions to help address a key challenge that they have using digital technologies. So a user case is a challenge faced by a group of advisors or an advisory organization. So they are heavily advisor-centered and influenced, as they are our key target group within FairShare. And what they do is they select one or multiple DATs that already exist to help solve this challenge. And the user cases that we support through FairShare, they represent the different sectors, regions, and farm advisory contexts across Europe. So as you can see on the map on the right, we have different regional hubs, as we refer to them in FairShare, in terms of countries involved in Western Europe, Northern Eastern Europe, Southeastern Europe, and Central Europe. So the user cases, they essentially develop their own strategies and actions to address their needs using a multi-actor approach. And then they can also share learnings and experiences of that through cross visits. So essentially what we would hope for these user cases is that they would develop their own networks and advisory networks in that sense through the FairShare project and through these cross visits. So overall, we're aiming to support 40 user cases. So 30 large, which are be funded to the tune of €90,000 each, and then 10 smaller user cases, which will be funded to €30,000. So we launched a procurement process earlier this year so we have 20 user cases that are internal to the FairShare, so with FairShare project partners, but then we also have user cases that are with external organizations, so that be private consultants and private organizations. So we have a further 10 selected with those, and those smaller user cases then will be selected next year in 2022. So from FairShare, the user cases, what they will get is that financial support, of course, but also the assistance and training from the FairShare project partners and that networking as well, which will hopefully go a long way to embedding practical digital tools within their user cases. So next slide. Most recently then, in terms of supporting the user cases and indeed any advisor out there, we've developed a DATS assessment tool. So what this assessment tool aims to do is to support advisors in evaluating and selecting digital tools that are out there, so they can assess if this tool is suitable for what they're actually looking for. So this is now available on our DATS inventory as well, and it's available in a downloadable form on an Excel, and it's available in 11 regional languages. Now we're also at the moment in train of actually developing this as a web-based tool, but at the moment it can be downloaded, and that has its usefulness as well in terms of being able to use it offline. So I would urge anyone to go on and try that. And essentially the tool evaluates different DATs based on a uniform set of criteria. So next slide. So to summarize then, on the left, this is essentially where we are and what we're trying to achieve. And then when we look to the right, you can see the Fair Share Bridge. That's exactly what Fair Share is trying to do in terms of sharing the tools, the expertise, and also through the user cases, being able to share the expertise and the motivations and the networking, I suppose, within that for the use of digital tools into the future. The next slide. So in terms of recommendations of the team of fitting into today to improve agricultural education from Share, I suppose one of our key outputs is the DATS inventory, because this is a key resource to support the sharing of tools and experiences. So yes, the Fair Share inventory will share tools, but also we'll be uploading good practices there in terms of sharing what are the key features of these tools and why do they work so well, because sharing good practices can actually, enhance the use of digital tools. And indeed, throughout Fair Share, we've carried out a number of workshops across Europe in terms of trying to look at the challenges and the solutions to digital tools. And one of the key things that came up across the four regional workshops was that, people weren't sure what was actually available or what was out there. So I think the DATS inventory goes a long way to actually, being one of those solutions, and it's already in train. I suppose from a Fair Share perspective, and as Emilio touched on earlier, it's kind of one of those platforms that we would love to see, supported beyond the life of Fair Share, because it is such a key resource and it's building all the time. Also, in terms of the use of DATS or digital technologies, we see that it needs to be integrated into course curricula for young trained farmers and for young advisors from an early age, so that that use of digital technology is embedded at that early stage. And indeed, by sharing the wider use of DATS, it ensures that they're more sustainable and successful, because the more people who use digital technology, the cheaper it becomes. And that is a sign of a successful DAT, that it's a low cost and that it's accessible to people. And as Inga touched on already in her presentation in terms of digital technician, we know that there's going to be more requirements and support in the next CAP and EU Green Deal in terms of digital technologies. So it's something that's going to be coming down the tracks and is a key element for the future. And the last slide. So lastly, I just want to say thank you. And if anyone has any questions or queries outside of today, please feel free to get in contact by my email address. Of course, you can join our website at h2020fairshare.eu and find us on the usual social media networks in terms of your Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. So thank you very much.
Excellent, Teresa, excellent presentations. As I told you in the beginning, I think it's clear that we have a lot of overlappings. We are making similar things, all of those with the same objective. Thanks a lot for your clear explanation. And then we have to continue the next speaker, which is Dr. Peter Spanoje. He's representing Eureka project. So Peter, the floor is yours.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Peter Spanoje from Ghent University, and normally my presentation should start up, but I don't see it for the moment in the screen, but maybe I need to wait. Voila, there we are. So I will talk about two projects, URACNOS and Eureka. And for those who have already watched very carefully to the presentation of Inge, in fact, she took one of my slides, but I will explain it a little bit again. Let's go and move to the second slide. Next slide. Okay, so maybe some of you ask yourself, okay, how was it done in the past? A digital knowledge reservoir, how was knowledge shared? And in fact, I found an old painting of 600 years ago, and maybe some of you will know that painting. It is painted by John van Eyck, and one of his details, in fact, you would think it's a picture, but it's not a picture, it's a painting. And it's a painting of the book, and if you look at the book, you will see that he is almost writing on the painting itself what is written inside the book, But what is fascinating, there is also a post-it in that book. And then, of course, if you watch that, you want to know what was exactly the information that was there on that page that perhaps would be very interesting to keep under attention. And in fact, that is also what we want to do with URACNOS and Eureka, looking for specific that information that is useful for the farmer, the forester, and the advisor. Move to the next slide, please. So what we are doing, we say, okay, the digital or the future of innovation is in fact based on the exchange of best practices, and then we talk about the digital exchange of best practices, and that's also the reason why we have this online workshop this afternoon. I want to draw your attention because if some of you are from a scientific background, from university, you will all be very familiar with the existing channels. You know Web of Science, you know Google Scholar, and these channels are there, or these platforms, they exist. And if we watch to the next slide, please. So what do you store normally in these channels? This is scientific publications. On the left-hand side, you will see one. So these tools are available, these channels are available. But from the moment that you start thinking about, okay, I made a movie, I made something practical, I made something visible, then in fact you will not find a place in this official scientific channels because they don't take it up. Maybe they will change in the future, but today it's not. Going to the next slide, please. So what did we observe in the projects? Eureka and URACNOS, they looked at the output of all projects, multi-actor agricultural projects, 120 in total. And what we did, we observed, we said, okay, this project, they produce a lot of information, but also they produce videos, fact sheets, and infographics. And then you can ask yourself, okay, this kind of useful information for the farmer, where will it be stored in the long term, and how is it made available across Europe? So what we observe, if you are an advisor, if you are a scientist, if you are a policymaker, then perhaps you are looking at different kind of material. But if you are a farmer and a forester, then it has to be very practical, it has to be very useful, and this is in fact what we want to collect in URACNOS and Eureka, and that we say, okay, we call it now the farm book, let's store it in the farm book. Go to the next slide, please. So how does the farm book look like today? You have just a picture of how is the first and the front page and so on. In fact, it is there. It is now tested internally in the consortium, but it will be accessible after the summer holidays. So it means that that's a little bit the moment we are looking for. So go a little bit more in detail inside that book. Next slide, please. So what kind of information and what kind of evaluation did we do? Because some people say, okay, I'm looking for high quality information, and how can we filter and so on. Let's give me a first view on how we did, or how we thought that we could address and serve the users. So go to the next slide. So this is the overview of the project. So in the first step, you say, okay, this is the knowledge available. So the data, the information available, just like you go to the market and you see, okay, there are different types of fruits and vegetables, and I want to have something. So and then in the second step, we said, okay, let's now have a look at the farmer and the forester. Let's have a look what he is selecting from that market, from this European project. What is he needing from these projects? Okay, then okay, he is choosing some things, and then in fact in the third step, it is a very important one. It's the evaluation. So then the farmer is really using that information and is saying, okay, I like it or I don't like it. And that's then of course the step number 4, because we are working in a digital environment. So we also want to give a comment. Okay, this is really great information. Going to the next step, please. Next slide. How do we know that we really will serve the user, because I think most of you as European projects will say, oh, this is really difficult because the farmer is on the field and he has no time to interact. And if I have a farmer, then it is a farmer who is not really working in practice anymore, who has a lot of people working for him. So this means that, okay, we need to know more about this user of information. And then you have this story about someone who said, okay, Steve Balltimer or something, he said, okay, this iPhone, it will be never successful. But what was the approach of the developers of the iPhone? I will tell you in the next slide. The approach was that they say, okay, let's do some surveys and let's have some persona. I saw in the previous presentation that Teresa was talking about Oliver, Anna, and Jan. And Jan, they were all advisors. In our story, we are talking about Claudia and about Hans. And Claudia and Hans are not advisors, but they are farmers or foresters. And they have a specific age and they have also specific wishes. What are they doing during the week? That's also something that you can observe. Going to the next slide, please. So what we in fact do, we are talking about imaginary farmers, but these imaginary farmers have a life story which is built upon real persons and these real persons' stories are from one farmer is combined by a story from another farmer. And so you have a real representative person. So this means that we are now talking about Michaela and Alexander, and that we say, okay, Michaela needs this information and Alexander will just watch what is presented on the in the comment boxes. So this is the approach of the Eureka project and the developing of the software and of the farm book. It means that we will try to put a farm book in front of us, which is serving all these people. Next slide, please. Going to the farm book itself, we observe that these people say, okay, we want something interactive, and then maybe the platform that is most known is the Facebook platform. So you see, you post something and then you can give comments or you can say, I like it much or whatever. Then on the other hand, of course, we will not produce a farm book Facebook, but we will say, okay, this information that we will post on it, it should have some quality. And then you can think about the Wikipedia. So it means that the information that is posted there has the right references at the back and has the right quality. So we say it's trustful and valuable information. So the platform itself, it looks like if you open it, you will have the choice between 6 categories. The first 3 are quite logic. You can say forestry, crop farming, and livestock. But then we also have chosen the 3 sustainability categories. So environment, society, and economic. So if you're more working in one or another category, maybe you want to move directly to the front page. And here you see the front page. If you enter the forestry front page, then it's the way how you will be welcomed. And then you will find the latest news over there. Next slide, please. The information is presented in different ways. You can have a list or you can have tiles. So this is, of course, you can have specific, subjective, personal preferences, the way it is presented. Anyway, if you put in the search a certain keyword, then your information will be popped up like this. Next slide, please. What is already explained is that, of course, you will have an possibility to interact. And you will have some ways that, okay, I can choose the language English, but you can also choose your own language. There is a login, and this sometimes people say, I hate to log in, but if you want to post information in the system, then we cannot do it anonymous. But normally you don't need to log in the platform itself, but from the moment that you want to give comments, we want to know who is giving comments, because if we don't ask that, then of course you can have a difficult situation. There is a like, but it's only up voting, not down voting. And also if you present something, maybe you can say, okay, what is related news? What is related knowledge that you want to maybe also have a look at it? Next slide, please. So what I already communicated, I said it's a little bit multimedia. So the community chat is important. Let's have a talk about certain knowledge object, about certain movies that are posted. Let's go in interaction. But also we will ask people that upload information that they can share contact details so that you know, okay, this is from that person. I want to have a talk with him. Next slide, please. What is important about the observation, and maybe some things that are very familiar to people that are working in this framework, is that we say, okay, the metadata are almost even so important as the real data. And in fact, maybe you ask yourself, what is metadata? And I present here a painting of my grandfather. And if he would not have signed that painting, then you would not know that it was from his hand. So this is one thing. You have to say, okay, this knowledge object is mine. A difficulty in the family is, of course, that he never put a date on the painting. So you cannot know it was before World War I or it was after World War I. But this is a little bit a story that also reminds me to the fact, in fact, the data, we need to have more attention to the metadata, because this is in the framework of the FAIR principle, so that you can reuse it at the end, that you can make them findable, and at least that you can attribute it to the right person who did the effort or the right project. Next slide, please. Also, the question comes up or pops up about, okay, in which format should you put your data in the platform? In fact, we are writing a manual, but what is the main standard is, of course, please don't use so highly sophisticated formats. Please use simple standard formats like a PDF or a Word document or whatever. Anyway, we will give some recommendations about that. Next slide. Also, sometimes you say, okay, I will not upload one by one. Just go to my website and I give you the allowance to just use your web crawler, and then you can, instead of having one by one, you can have a batch upload in the system. So what is our observation is that please use a structured website platform. And if it's structured, then in fact, some other computer tools can pick up information from your website and they can easily transfer it to a central platform. Next slide, please. This is a movie. I will not let it play now, but I'm sure that this information is becoming available after the meeting. So if you want to know more about what we are doing, what we are aiming, just have 2 minutes or 3 minutes of your time and watch the movie. Next slide, please. And in fact, what we are doing today is very to the philosophy. I'm also a big fan of. It means that URACNOS and Eureka, we are building a European multi-actor community, and we want to learn and build on each other. So we want also to share information. And this is, I can now put Innoseta and Fair Share and whatever other kind of projects. I believe we have to do this kind of activities much more so we can learn from each other. We are one full community. And you, next slide. And I want to thank you all. You know, my contact details are below. And anyway, I'm open for collaboration or for exchange of information. Thank you all for listening.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Peter. Excellent presentation. Fantastic. Let me just tell to the audience that 3 out of 3 projects already presented. We have been talking about platforms and have been talking about digitalization and in general internet connection. And this is something to be discussed later on concerning some difficulties in the rural areas. But this is something to be discussed. Thanks for coming and thanks for the presentation. Next, now we are going to move to the next speaker, which is Dr. Lorena van de Kolt from Wageningen, and she will present us the Smart AgriHubs. So Lorena, thanks for coming, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Emilia, for having me here. and I have the honor to represent Smart AgriHubs today. I'm from the communication and ecosystem building team. So I thought what better than to actually show you the platform, the unique added value of Smart AgriHubs. So I'm going to share my screen and we will go directly to Smart AgriHubs. Okay. So let me start by saying that Smart AgriHubs is the European network of digital innovation hubs that deal with agri-food. And we are also, I've seen a lot of similarities here with the other projects. We are also working with innovation experiments, with digital innovation hubs, with competence centers, but also we are divided in 9 regional clusters. But today the focus, I think, should be the innovation portal. And I've seen from Peter before, what we are trying to do is actually build this EU community of agri-food. And I like to refer to the innovation portal as the agri-food LinkedIn. And this is something that we'd like to achieve in the future. And of course, creating more synergies and coordination with the other Horizon 2020 projects. But without further delay, let's just go to this innovation portal. Basically, you can arrive to it by our Smart AgriHubs website. And here you have a link to the portal. And I agree with Peter, people do or are a bit reluctant to actually log in. But it is very easy. It's just 1 or 2 seconds. You need your email address, and then basically you are in the portal. Here we have a lot of information and a really buzzing community. The innovation portal was started in September 2019, and since then we have more than 750 single organizations and more than 2,500 users. So, and increasing every week. I think this is quite an achievement for a European project, Horizon 2021, where actually there is a limited, there are limited resources in terms of communication and dissemination. Our innovation portal, I would say it is unique because it's actually bringing together several or a variety of stakeholders. You have this page where we call it the network page because actually the main goal is to interact, to exchange learnings, to get to know other companies from all over Europe. And it is quite interactive because it's one of the features of Smart AgriHubs. We really would like to connect the dots in the agri-food sector. So for example, let me show you how it works. You can choose one of the sectors. Of course, the sectors are in line with the scope of Smart AgriHubs. So we can, let's say, take dairy, and then you can go for, let's say, a part of Europe you are interested in, so maybe Iberia. And then you can also choose the type of organization you would like to see, either innovation experiments or digital innovation hubs, or even several. You can select actually different criteria. If we go here, we can see a flagship innovation experiment, and if you click on it, you have the information, but you also have the partners, the members, and a small description. You have also the contact information and the way to get in touch with that member or user of the platform. You can zoom in, zoom out, you can deselect or select, and you can also actually choose a list. So if you don't like the map, and actually see all the organizations that you are searching for. The network is actually the place to meet all the organizations and to use a matchmaking tool to get in touch with either a technology provider, a farmer organization, a competence center, a startup, SME, or simply organizations that are member of Smart AgriHubs. As I mentioned before, we really want to create these synergies with other projects, and we already started doing that. And you can see here that we added the IOF 2020 use cases. IOF 2020 is a project, Horizon 2020 project, that also finalized this year, and they actually are in the process of putting all the heritage or transferring the knowledge they have achieved within the project into the Smart AgriHubs Innovation Portal. So here you can actually see their use cases and their users or the member of the community also being part of the Innovation Portal. Here you also have a menu where you can go actually to the different features. So we are, one of the goals of the Innovation Portal is also to exchange knowledge. And we have a library. You can also see the number of documents that are actually part of the library now. And the library is divided in 5 big topics, things related to the project itself, and then communication, scientific research, but also community building. And then we have a special section dedicated to IOF 2020. If you go to any of them, you can actually see how it works with keywords. So you can select or type your word there, or you can already use the current tags and you can see what type of documents are in there. And you can see if it's actually a link to a website or a PDF or actually a Word document or an image. It is also very easy to interact with the community. You can update the file or you can contribute to the Exchange database by just uploading the document or the information you want. We also have a section dedicated to lessons, and actually we encourage our members to share their opinions and lessons with us, either their experiences based on the project they are developing, not necessarily linked to Smart AgriHubs, but all the agri-food projects or activities they are involved in. We also have a training and a calendar section, and here basically there are all the courses and the workshops our members are offering. So as you can see, the users are uploading the courses themselves or the workshop. Anyone can do it. Actually, you can see also Innoseta in here. But also we have a calendar, and this was more, let's say, thought for physical events. Of course, now with the COVID and the situation, this has changed a bit. So now you have live online events publicized here. Then we have a section dedicated to tools, and this is mainly for the organization's part of the community. And here you can see all kind of products or platforms developed by the project, meaning maturity assessment for the digital innovation hubs, or an assessment tool developed by for the competence centers. So everything related to your, let's say, tools related to your organization, you can find them in here. This is personalized based on the information on the type of organization you are, but also the different features that you have selected in the innovation portal. Last but not least, we also have a page dedicated on the open call, and here Smart AgriHubs has different open calls running. So all the information related on how to access funding on the project, you can find it here. We also have published Q&As, videos, and podcasts on this. So this page is actually the Bible for accessing the Smart AgriHubs open calls. It's up to date, it's very thoroughly documented, so you can easily see and spot all the information in here. The last things actually that is related to the innovation portal, it is the forum. So every user, every organization can actually chat and interact in the forum of Smart AgriHubs. You have different categories in here, and you can anytime start a new thread, a new discussion, and you can link it to either your organization's need, but also to the project. What we try to facilitate is also groups, close groups to our members, so to regional clusters. For example, if you are an SME or a digital innovation hub belonging to regional cluster Iberia, you actually have a hidden channel that you can pose your question, discuss all your doubts related to specifically to your geographical area. We have tried also to do that for some digital innovation hubs or different members. This is easily added to, this could easily be added to the innovation portal. Here are the, this is actually the section where the user get in touch, ask the expertise or ideas, or can comment upon ongoing activities within the community, but also outside it. I just want to highlight the fact that talking to Emilio the other day, we realized that there are so many things that we Horizon 2020 projects working in the field of agri-food or agriculture, we can develop together. And I believe that the innovation portal could be a fit, one of the tools to use, one of the platforms that could bring together and could connect the dots in all these ongoing projects. We are very open, we are very flexible to receive other projects, but also to help you connect, disseminate your information. And actually, I think the community has already, I think it's already including members of your own projects. I see here also events from Agro Robo Food and so on, but also I know for sure FairShare is also in here, Demeter and so on. So I think we should work together to facilitate and ease let's say the work of all these users of the need of having just one or two platforms where all the information is easily accessible. Thank you so much, Emilio. And of course, if anyone has any questions, I'm here, so looking forward.
Excellent, excellent, Lorena. Thank you so much. It's really amazing to see how many information we have, and it's available for all the stakeholders, and it's a good point to have some clarification and a little bit order on how to reach this information. Thanks a lot, clear information. And now it's the time of the next project, which will be presented by Dr. Nicolas Mounier-Jolin. The project is IPM Works, and again, thank you, Nicola, for your participation here. And now the agendas are so busy and limited, so I would like to thank you once more for you to be here. And the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Emilio. Thank you for inviting me. And it's a pleasure for me to present IPM Works, which is a network of demonstration farms demonstrating and promoting cost-effective IPM strategies, so on integrated pest management. Maybe I can have my slides, please. This H2020 project started last October, and so it's a network of demo farms. So it's probably a project which is quite different from the three previous projects that were presented. May I have the next slide, please? So what about the background? Well, you are all aware that there is a strong societal and political pressure to decrease pesticide use in Europe, and it's one of the targets of the European Green Deal is to halve pesticide use by 2030. Of course, there are in Europe a number of farmers converting to organic agriculture. This will contribute definitely to this task of decreasing pesticide, but this alone is unlikely to achieve the goal. So there is a big issue is to decrease pesticide use drastically in conventional farms. And we know that there are few pioneer farmers that are using less pesticides than their neighbors. They are using actually the principles of integrated pest management to decrease the reliance on pesticides. So the objective of the IPM Works project is to demonstrate with those pioneer farmers that IPM indeed works, meaning that IPM indeed allows to reduce the reliance on pesticides while boosting the economic profitability at the farm level. Next slide, please. So what is IPM? What is integrated pest management? And what is holistic IPM? So IPM, holistic IPM is based on on two main pillars. The first one could be the use of non-chemical preventive measures to decrease pest pressure. There are many available solutions on cultural practices, genetics, and so on. Most often, those available non-chemical solutions are not fully efficient. So the farmers need to combine several methods and to redesign the strategies of pest management to reduce pest pressure. And that's why we consider the farm level, and that's why we call it holistic IPM. And the second pillar, of course, is to optimize treatments to avoid unnecessary treatments. This is based on monitoring of pests and decision support systems and so on. And it is the combination of the low pest pressure allowed by the redesign of the cropping systems and the optimized treatments that allow the reduced reliance on pesticides. Next slide, please. So what about our project, IPM Works? IPM Works is basically a network of demo farms demonstrating cost-effective IPM strategies, and cost-effective is a very important aspect of what is demonstrated in those demo farms. We have 31 partners in 16 countries with different kind of partners, research, advisory services, many advisory services with different types of private and public advisory services, farmers association and institution dedicated to training and so on. All of us, we are motivated to promote a holistic vision of IPM, which is the only type of IPM that is able to reduce the reliance on pesticides, according to our opinion. And we propose a specific methodology, which is based on hubs of farmers. In those hubs of farmers, we promote a peer-to-peer knowledge exchange from farmer to farmer, so as to help them to progress further towards holistic IPM and cost-effective IPM with low reliance on pesticides. Of course, we will have plenty of demo events to hit a large number of farmers. We will collect some data in the farms, in the demo farms, and this data will be used to support the demonstrations of cost efficiency of IPM strategies. And we will, of course, try to maximize our impact through videos, leaflets, articles, practice abstracts, and also training. Next slide, please. So in this project, we have two things. The first thing is to coordinate 5 national initiatives, 5 national networks of demo farms in 5 countries. We have the DEFTI network in France, and the IPM network in Germany, the LEAF network grown in the Netherlands, and the PestiRed initiative in Switzerland. And most important, we will launch 22 new hubs of demo farms, which will be about 250 farmers throughout Europe. In each hub, we will have about 10 to 15 farmers sharing the same time of crops, sharing the same types of problems, not far away from each other, to be able to meet and to discuss. Of course, they have to wish to reduce pesticide use. They have to be ready to share ideas, to support demo events, and to actually demonstrate that IPM indeed works. Next slide, please. This is a map of the 31 partners in our project. And this is also the opportunity to say that our network is divided into 5 sectors, namely the arable field crops, the vineyards, the open-air vegetables, soft fruits and ornamentals, orchards and greenhouses. And we have another cross-cutting sector, which is organic farming, because we have some organic farms in our network, in each of our hubs of demo farms. Next slide, please. So we promote, and we intend to promote a new approach for advisory services. Indeed, in our network, we gave a major role to advisors, to hub coaches that are coaching hubs of demo farms. Those advisors, those hub coaches, they will They are helping farmers exchange knowledge from farmer to farmer. They help farmers to think holistic, which means to redesign the pest management strategy. They help farmers to find their own solution, because we think that the problem of IPM is really site specific. And they organize the demonstration events based on the success stories we have in our demonstration farms. So it's a new approach for advisory services, because very often regarding pesticide use and pest management, before the main type of advice was like it is written, you have a pest in your field, so you will have some yield losses if you do nothing. So use this pesticide and the problem will be solved. And afterwards, we promote a new vision of advisory services with advices of this type. You had this year a problem with this kind of pests. So you have to think how you can change the crop rotation, how you can choose resistant cultivars, how you can adapt the sowing dates, moderate the fertilization, change the soil tillage, redesign the landscapes maybe. And so if you do this next year, hopefully the pest pressure will be lower and you will not need to use pesticide anymore, or not so frequently. So this is really a different paradigm of advising for pest management. Next slide, please. We have in IPM Works, we have some supporting activities. We have a work package dedicated to human science to produce some recommendations for optimizing the adoption of holistic IPM based on peer-to-peer knowledge exchange. We have some activities for capacity building of our hub coaches. So we will organize some sessions where hub coaches, they are also exchanging some knowledge about how they are managing their hubs, how they are helping the farmers to adopt IPM. We have in-field experiments for comparisons of alternative IPM strategies. Very important, we will develop an IPM resource toolbox, which will be a platform giving an easy access to all relevant IPM related information and IPM related tools, including IPM related decision support systems provided by a sister project, which is called IPM Decisions. I will talk a little bit about it later. I already said this, we will collect some data for demonstration of cost efficiency of the strategies. And we will have some communication and dissemination and training activities within the project. Next slide. Where are we now? So as I said, the project started last October for 4 years. We have some hub coaches that are now identified. The farmer groups, the farmers are also identified. The farmer groups are set or being set. And I must say that we have some excellent feedback from farmers group. Last week I had a feedback from a group in Belgium, and the farmers, they are really happy to meet with other farmers, to exchange some knowledge, to share some difficulties they have for managing some pests and so on. And we have excellent feedbacks about the feeling of the farmers joining those groups. And we have already several demonstration events that are done. Here you have a picture of the first one that was done under the umbrella of IPM Works in Spain in the beginning of April. We have all our tools that are ready now. We have guidelines for hub coaches. We have consent forms for the farmers and so on. And we have our website, which is ready, up and running. You can go on it. Next slide, please. And I would like to finish with my last slide about the question of sustainability beyond the end of our project, beyond 2024. We are already thinking about this sustainability. There are two main issues. The first one is to maintain, beyond the end of the project, the network of demo farms. And we have to maintain the associated methodology of hubs of demo farms. We want to maintain the network. We want to increase the number of hubs and the number of demo farms after 2024. And also we want to extend the network geographically. We want to extend to all EU countries or EU regions where we are not so far in the current project. So we developed a joint strategy with the sister project Nefertiti, which is a previous project on farm demo network. And the second issue for us is to maintain our IPM resource toolbox. And we are developing a joint strategy with the IPM Decisions project, which is a sister project developing a digital platform to provide an access to decision support systems dedicated to pest management and to integrated pest management. So we are just starting to build our strategy for this long-term sustainability. And we have 3 points so far in our strategy. Of course, it can change, but so far we have 3 points. The first point is important. We will organize some training sessions during the projects, targeting advisors, targeting farmers and advisors, but mainly advisors in regions where we are not, because we think that those advisors will be candidates for being hub coaches and launching new hubs after the end of our project and joining the IPM Works network. So in those training sessions, there will be some technical aspects about IPM, about pest management. We will have some resources to demonstrate the cost efficiency of the IPM strategies that are identified in our network. But we will also have, and this is very important, some training about soft skills for managing hubs, and how for soft skills about techniques to promote knowledge exchange and to promote the redesign of IPM strategies at the farm level. So the second point of our strategy for long-term sustainability is to take some contacts in all European countries and regions, contacts with ministries of agriculture, contacts with rural networks, with operational groups, and with advisory services. We want to have some deep contact with them, all those people, to inform them about IPM Works. We want to convince those people that the methodology proposed by IPM Works is very important and necessary to go towards the reduction of pesticide use in all regions of EU. And we will organize a meeting. We will organize several meetings, but the first one is planned in the spring of next year, in spring of 2022. We will invite all those persons, all those people, the ministries in charge of agricultural operational groups, advisory services, and so on, in the first meeting in Bristol, and we will discuss all together about the overall strategy to grant the long-term sustainability of these networks and IPM resource toolbox. Thank you very much for your attention, and I'm ready to answer to your questions, if any.
Thank you. Thank you, Nicolas. Excellent presentation. Great job. You have 4 years of very stressed and very intensive work, very well established, very well planned. And what I can tell you is indeed IPM works, certainly. So now it's time for the last project before the short break. And it's a pleasure for me to give the floor to Dr. Javier Casado, which will explain us something about a project which is something different from the rest. Its name is Smart Chain, and we will see something from the other side of the food. So it's not directly linked with the primary producer, but at the end with food. So Javier, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Emilio, for the kind invitation to this really interesting event. and good afternoon to everybody. My name is Javier Casado, and I'm working at the University of Ulm in Germany as a project manager and part of the project coordination team of the Smart Chain project. This is an Horizon 2020 project with a 3 years duration, and we are almost at the end of the project. The end will be in August this year. Next slide, please. So the main objective of the project, it is to support the collaborative short food supply chain through different action and recommendation, introducing new business model and innovative practical solution to increase the competitiveness and sustainability of the European agri-food system. As you all know, short food supply chain are this kind of supply chain where the farmer sell the product directly or with a minimum number of intermediary to the consumer. As I said, the coordinator of this 3 years project is the University of Ulm in Germany. Next, please. We are following a multi-actor approach. We have a huge consortium with 43 partners from 9 different European countries and 2 associated countries. Here you can see we have research institution, we have a technological transfer center, we have a non-profit organization covering different kind of stakeholders like consumer, farmers, the food industry in general. And here in the middle, you can see the key partner in the project. We have 18 different short food supply chain as a case studies, official partner of the project, representing different kind of initiative, short food supply chain initiative from 9 different countries in Europe. They are the main sort of information from the project. Next, please. At the beginning of the project, we established 9 different innovation hubs in 9 different countries. The hub, they have the main activity was a facilitated data collection or data acquisition from the different short food supply chain. Each hub, it's including 1 hub manager, different national partner, and 2 specific short food supply chain case studies. So the hub, they were the linking pin between our case studies and the researcher in our project. They also organize several dissemination activities, and they also promote the engagement of national stakeholders out of the consortium. Next, please. Here you can see the workflow of the project. In the middle, you can see our 18 short food supply chain case studies. We start the project with a multi-perspective analysis of our 18 short food supply chain for different perspectives. This is technological and not technological innovation, social innovation, the perspective that is really important from the consumer, sustainability assessment. This includes the environmental, but also the socioeconomic impact, this short food supply chain, the business perspective, and also the regulatory context of this 18 short food supply chain. With this massive data, we implemented also additional studies and different kind of analysis in the project. Next, please. Here you can see some example of the tasks that we implemented within the project. As I said, we are almost at the end. Here we can see, for example, the project identified the typical problem, needs, and bottlenecks from the short food supply chain. And based on this information, we collect and analyze existing innovative solution, applicable solution, with an inventory of innovation of more than 150 applicable solutions. We also implemented qualitative and quantitative consumer studies to see also the perspective of the consumer, how we can overcome the barrier for the reason the consumer, maybe they are not buying a lot from this short food supply chain. And also we want to identify what is the main reason for the consumer to buy from this kind of short food supply chain. Also, we have some studies regarding to the environmental and socioeconomic impact of the short food supply chain from some selected case studies in comparison with the long supply chain. We have many very interesting results, funding, and recommendation. And in this presentation, I will show you where you can find it, because as you can imagine, it is possible in this short presentation to present everything. Next slide, please. On the communication and dissemination, the project has already organized 18 multi-actor workshops. This was done by the 9 hub managers. In this workshop, we present the main finding, applicable solution, the result and recommendation for farmer, food producer, and short food supply chain practitioner. It was done in 2 rounds. The first round, it was last year, and the second round, it is this year. As you can see, most of our workshops were online due to the COVID situation, and we have more than 400 participants. Next, please. We have prepared several different types of dissemination material, infographic, one-pager, recommendation sheet, thinking always that our main target group, they are the farmer and short food supply chain practitioner. So we try to spread our message with a really easy and understandable language. Next, please. We have also from the scientific side, we are preparing, and it will be published after the official end of the project, one Smart Chain special issue in the International Journal of Food Studies with 10 different papers based on the result of the project, but we also produce a big number of popular articles in different language that we publish in different online, in website, and also in different magazines. Next, please. For sure, we have prepared also a big number of practice abstracts. In the middle of the project, we were able to provide 17 different practice abstracts. They are already in the AP Agri project database. By the end of the project, we will increase the number with a total of 35 practice abstracts. As you know, this is following the common format and a very short summary of applicable solution for the farmer and other stakeholders. Next, please. We have a YouTube channel with different kind of videos presenting different examples of our short food supply chain from different countries. And we are really proud of this animation video you can see in the left side, where we try to explain to the general public what are the difference between the short food supply chain and the long supply chain, and also the benefit of the short food supply chain. Next, please. We have time to present the result and main funding of the project in different workshop, webinar, conference, for sure. Most of the time, unfortunately, in a virtual way, but this is the situation that we are facing all. Here you can see some example. We organized for, a short food supply chain session during the Origin Diversity and Territory Forum last year in collaboration with our with the project Horizon 2020, Strength to Food. And also 2 weeks ago, we have an invitation from the Commission to present the result of a big online consumer survey that we implemented in 4 different countries with more than 2,000 participants. And it was presented in the frame of the 2021 Agricultural Outlook Spring Workshop. Next, please. Try to summarize all the result and finding that we have and the applicable result and solution. We make the challenge for our work packet leaders to prepare 2 pages for all the topic of the work packet and to prepare a booklet. This is a digital document where focus for the farmer and short food supply chain practitioner in a really easy and understandable language. And this booklet will be available probably next week in the English version, but we will have in 9 different languages. And for sure, we will promote this booklet in the different website of the project, also the social media. Next, please. We have 2 different websites. We have the project website with the general information about the project, consortium, and also 1 section for news and events. And then we have a second, this is the innovation platform. This is an online platform where all the result material produced for the project are available for different kind of stakeholders. Next, please. In the innovation platform, we have some different kind of database. This, for example, this innovation inventory. This is a searchable database with more than 150 innovative solutions, including technological solution, digital solution, marketing solution, social solution, etc. Next, please. We have a resources with publication section where you can find all the one-pager, all the PDF, PowerPoint summary of some specific topic and result of the project, some publication, and also the public deliverable of the project. Next, please. In the training section, we have all the presentation that the hub manager they used during the implementation of the multi-actor workshop, because it was for sure in the national language, in 9 different national language, are available here in this training session. Next, please. So you can find all the presentation with the result for the different work packet in this 9 language available for all the stakeholders. Next, please. Also in the training section, you can find an e-learning course, best practices in short food supply chain innovation. In this course, we are presenting some selected innovation. We have video and presentation from the owner of the innovation, but also some example of short food supply chain applying this kind of innovation. This is a 5-week learning course. We have a first round from the 24th of June, And due to the high demand, we are running a second round from the 12th of July. And after this second round, we will have the e-learning course will be open and available at any time for the stakeholder in the innovation platform. Next, please. Regarding to the sustainability, it was already mentioned in several presentations. We have the problem as soon as the budget, the funding is done, what is happening with all our result, our platform and so on. And lucky to inform that in the case of the Smart Chain Innovation Platform, we will have 5 ongoing Horizon 2020 projects: Fair Chain, Coverage, Lowing Food, Food Aras and Plutus, that they are going to continue with the use of the innovation platform. So they will ensure the sustainability of the legacy of the Smart Chain project with all the results, and they are going to for sure feed the platform with additional results coming from these 5 projects. So currently, the innovation platform is focused in short for supply chain, but from the 1st of September, it will be focusing innovation value chain, not only in short for supply chain. Next, please. Regarding to the social media, we have for sure a Twitter account, but we have also 2 LinkedIn accounts. The second one is including here in this slide. This is a group, Short Food Chain EU Community. It was started by the Smart Chain Consortium and now is moderated in collaboration with the Horizon 2020 Strength to Food. We have more than 200 members. And this is a group where all kind of practitioners from short food supply chain, farmers or people that are interested in this kind of value chain, they can share information, best practices, events, and so on. Next, please. And I'm going to invite you all to our final event. This will be in the 6th of July, where all our experts and work package leaders, they are going to present their result and all type of recommendations for the short food supply chain in our meeting. We will be really happy if you can join us. Next, please. And with this, I want to thank you all for your attention.
Thanks a lot, Javier. Thank you very much. A good example of a close to the end project with a huge amount of work, well done, and really, really interesting. Congratulations, and congratulations for you having already been able to solve the sustainability of the project. Now we are in the middle of the project presentations. I'm not the best in the world in coordinating those kind of activities, so sorry for the delay. We have around 45 minutes delay, so my suggestion is to short a little bit the coffee break, and it's now 5:02. So I suggest to start in 8 minutes, 10 minutes. So please be ready to be here by 17:10 at the most. Take your break and take some coffee. See you. Hello again, and sorry for the very, very short coffee, but we try to save some time. We are going to start the second part of the project's presentation. We have 5 more projects, so I will ask please to the presenters to maintain the time in order to be not so boring to the audience. In fact, there is not any boring presentation. All of them have been really exciting. Next presenter will be Dr. Sabine Paulette from Inagro, and she will represent the Smart project, Smart Protect, another very close project in this case with Innoseta. So Sabine, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sabine Paulette, and I'm from Inagro in Belgium. I'm the coordinator of Smart Protect. I'm waiting to see the presentation. Yeah, it's starting now, I think. Yes, thank you. Thank you. Next slide, please. So Smart Protect is an Horizon 2020 thematic network and working on smart IPM tools for innovative vegetable crop production. Next slide, please. It's a 3-year project with covering 12 countries and involving 16 partners. And we are working with 3 regional innovative hubs. Next, please. And here you can see all the logos of the partners working together in Smart Protect and the links to our social media and websites. Next slide, please. The most important objectives of Smart Protect is to build a sustainable platform for sharing the knowledge on the greenhouse and the open field vegetables. And a very important other objective is the benchmarking study for finding the best practices with the highest innovation potentials for the smart IPM. We want to provide the farmers with easy, accessible and understandable guidelines and materials. And of course, we want to bridge the gap between the European regions. We want to engage in the wider European innovation partnerships. And of course, we want to secure the long-term sustainability of the knowledge. Next slide, please. We want to have the impact on the conserving the practical knowledge and increasing the sharing of the practical information. That's why we are working with a multi-actor approach. And we want to achieve a greater user acceptance of all collected solutions by the farmers. And a very important fact for the farm to fork strategy is, of course, the decreasing use of the pesticides. And we want to have a big impact by our project on that. Next slide, please. A short overview of the scheme of the project. Here you have a view of the 4 main work package. And the first year, so we started the 1st of January 2020, and the first year was mainly filled with a collection of all the knowledge, all the smart IPM tools. Of course, due to COVID, there were no events or fairs, so we all have to do this by emailing and phoning. So it took us more time than initially foreseen. And now we are have finished the surveys on smart IPM tools. We made 2 surveys with the stakeholders and the experts, and our German partner GK is now doing the benchmarking exercise in order to have the best practices. And the last year of the project, so mainly we will start already in autumn this year, as we think that the COVID restrictions will be more or less, so we will be able to plan things and have some demos and events of courses, and then we can have the exchange. And of course, through the whole project, we have the knowledge management. Next slide, please. We have a focus on a certain vegetables. So we choose for 3 greenhouse vegetables, the tomato, cucumber, and the bell pepper, and 3 open field vegetables, the brassica, the alliums, and the lettuce. And we have focused on the detection of beneficials, pests and pathogens, innovative monitoring systems, prediction models, and then innovative biological control techniques, such as UV light systems. Next slide, please. Just some general information in order to discuss or to have the same definition between all partners on IPM. We've developed our own IPM pyramid, so every partner can use this in his communication. Next, please. And then there is also already some output fact sheets on the websites on diseases and pests on brassicas, alliums, and tomato. You can find them on the top of it on the website. Next slide, please. The most important work package so far has been the knowledge collection made by University of Warwick. Until now, we have a database of 160 items, smart IPM tools. We have selected them. We had more, but we have refused a few of them as if we have too less information regarding the technician part of it. And we can divide all these items in 4 subgroups. One is the application tools. The second is decision support tools. The third are the diagnostic and detection tools. And the fourth group is the monitoring tools. Next slide, please. So here you have an overview of a few traps for monitoring, trap view, Savio trap, and then the insects which you can catch with it. Next slide, please. This is a smart overview of the amount, it was preliminary results of the amount of completed surveys by the stakeholders. That means the farmers, and then the experts are more the researchers. The experts have been, and the surveys have been ended at the end of May, and now the results are being processed. Next slide, please. Here you can have some preliminary research from stakeholders and the experts, and the question is, according to your option, how important is using smart IPM tools for your plant protection? And both groups mention this is very important, so the yellow-green bar. And if you look at the vegetables, they are usually grow, so a very important part are the cabbages and also the tomatoes, potatoes, greenhouse crops as cucumber. Next slide, please. How do you manage the pest and disease? So you have different answers in that, but if the question, what would be the most important for you regarding the use of smart technology in the plant protection, then the stakeholders, so the farmers and the experts, give that the efficacy of the tool is the most important item for them. Next slide, please. The results of the benchmarking will be presented. We are still discussing within the partnership how to do this, but you will see picture, you will have some information on that. And there will be on the right side a radar chart given an indication of the things which the IPM tool is very good in and then less good in. Next slide, please. If you go to the platform for the users, it's not been officially launched. It's a soft launch, as all the companies can check first their information, because we launched this officially. Then you can, at the top, you will see the 4 types of techniques I just mentioned. And if you click one, then you can go to, you can select further on bacteria, of fungi, of insects. Next, please. And then you will see more in detail. For instance, you select on the left side, I only are interested in greenhouse tools or in open field tools. And I want to know anything only about insects. Then you will give only the items which you selected. And you also can select it according to technology readiness level, because we decided only to focus on commercially available tools or TRL level at minimum 7. Next, please. So this is, for instance, the FE spray. You will have some small information on it, the countries which is used, the crops which you can use it. Can you use it for a big scale, farm scale, or rather small scale? It's for open field or greenhouses. But if you want to know more, then there's a link to the website of the company. There is also an option to upload some more documentation or videos on the system. Next, please. This is more information. So it's the background. You see the image, you see the technique types, you have the application ways, and as I already told, the farm scale types. Next, please. And a very important one is that because in order to be used by all farmers, we decided to have translation of all these techniques on the most important languages of our consortium. So it will be in English, but also in Dutch, Spanish, Portuguese, Greece, French. So every partner has to look for the translation for the techniques. So to be sure that also farmers can have the information. Next slide, please. The second part of the project, so we are almost halfway now, actually this week, will be spent to the knowledge exchange, and then we will build out the hubs and every, so we have one in the Southern European region, the Middle European region, and the Northern European region. And there we will organize one-to-one meetings, workshops, courses, company visit, demo trials, in order to reach the farmers and to demonstrate them the best techniques which were the result of the benchmarking. Next slide, please. These are some information of the dissemination. There was a poster on the ISCP symposium in Ghent a few months ago. Next, please. And then some information about, again, the social media of us, where you can find us, and again, the website. So you're welcome to visit it. And next slide, please. I think I'm coming to the end. I want to thank you for giving us the opportunity to present the preliminary results of our thematic network so far. Thank you.
Thank you, Sabine. Excellent.
You're welcome.
Nice presentation. As the audience already realized, you mentioned IPM, you mentioned platform, you mentioned applications, and so on. So again, close relationship among the some other projects. So I'm thinking as a farmer, sometimes I came crazy. Such a huge amount of information and platform. Something important you mentioned is related to the need to translate into the local languages. Otherwise, it's only for people as we are here. Unfortunately, not everybody speaks English. Yeah. Thanks. Next speaker is Dr. Kevin Dulin. He will present the Demeter project, and it's a really exciting project, as you will see right now. I'm the honor to be on board of this advisory board. So, Kevin, thanks for coming. And again, the digital floor is yours.
Hi, thanks for the introduction, Emilio, and thanks to you and the team for organizing the event. I'll get started. I presume my slides will pop up in a minute. My name is Kevin Doolan, and I'm the Director of Innovation in the Walton Institute in Waterford, Ireland. Previously, we were known as the TSSG. And I'm here to talk to you about the Demeter project. Next slide, please. So Demeter, we're a large-scale pilot dealing with integration of devices and services, primarily at a data layer, covering the complete supply chain from farm to fork. And by the way, this includes work on AKIS and on our own agricultural information model, which you can find information about on our website, or if you contact me directly. Where did this, no, I'm not ready. You can go back. Yeah, where did this project come from? Well, obviously modernization of the Common Agricultural Policy is a very critical situation and reflects a lot of what we focus on within Demeter. Particularly with its focus on, for example, rebalancing power in the food chain, supporting generation and renewal, ensuring fair income and protection of food and health quality. And a lot of these things can be addressed through digitalization, but there are a number of bottlenecks that need to be overcome. And these include things like the lack of infrastructure, connectivity and broadband to be able to bring cutting edge technology closer to the field. Sometimes limited awareness on behalf of farmers, and we've heard this from some of the other presenters about the benefits the technology can bring. And it's really not enough to just assume that, you know, if we build a technology, they'll use it. Farmer skills also need to be updated somewhat so they can engage in a more meaningful and productive way with technology. On the technical side, interoperability between systems is still relatively limited. This can be through a lack of defined standards, for example, or indeed walled garden business models that still exist. And additionally, ownership of data is quite critical. So when we think about the future CAP, we're trying to rebalance power, but how can we do that if farmers can't retain their data ownership? And beyond these limiting factors, there's a number of risks as well we need to take into account. So for example, and this was mentioned at the start of the workshop, the digital divide. Particularly between small farmers and large multi-farm players, can really increase if equal access to technology is not provided. And then to add to the mix, we have pressures from the Green Deal, but this can be really seen as an opportunity. So increased technology deployment, increased support of intelligence can really make great inroads towards sustainability, but not without considering some of the challenges I just mentioned. So this brings me to the current group of projects, as you can see on the slide here, that are addressing these challenges. So as you can see, Demeter is located within the technology development group of projects with NEVA and Atlas. Atlas is the sister project to Demeter, and NEVA is focused on digitalization and modernization of the Common Agricultural Policy. Although you could argue that Demeter should also overlap into the uptake column as well, because we've launched our first open call and we're actually studying technology adoption models in the farming sector. Next slide, please. So Demeter is, as I said, we're a large-scale pilot. We have 60 different partners across 18 countries. And as I said, the core goal of the project is to implement interoperability right across the agri chain from farm to fork, particularly at a data level. And to verify our results, we've planned 20 different pilots across 5 major agricultural sectors, and these pilots are already underway. We also plan to have significant dissemination of results, which should result in increased uptake through the involvement, particularly through the involvement of the World Farmers Organization. The map here shows the spread of our pilots across Europe, and a little infographic gives you a bit of a better idea of the scale of the work that we're trying to undertake in the project. Next slide, please. So we've developed these, we're developing quite complicated systems within Demeter. We've our first implementation of our architecture completed, as I said, and our pilots are underway. But to verify the systems that we've designed are going to work as they've planned, we have this series of 20 pilots that are split into these 5 categories that you can see on the slide. And each has a slightly different focus. And again, you can get details on each of these pilots in our website, or if you contact me. But just for example, under arable crops, we've got things like water and energy management, like smart energy management in irrigated crops or optimal rice irrigation. We also look at precision farming related to arable crops. So looking at things like in-service agricultural machinery condition monitoring, or data brokerage and decision support systems. Crop health and crop health and quality in the fruit and vegetable sector. In here, we look at things like, for example, decision support systems for olive growers. Under the animals, we're looking at things like dairy farmers' dashboards for milk production, and we've also got meat production dashboards as well. And then we have a number of cross-sectoral pilots. So looking at things, for example, pollination optimization in apiculture, or enabling transparency in the poultry industry supply chain. Now, you might think it's a bit weird that we've got such a broad variance in our pilots, but the rationale for doing that is to ensure that our solutions are relevant, and are relevant across multiple sectors, and they can be deployed in as diverse settings as we can find. Next, please. So just quickly in terms of where we are today, we started in September 2019. We have a multi-actor approach that's fully underway in the project. We've got our initial requirements and architecture ready. Our piloting has started, albeit with some delays due to COVID. We've also had our first round of open calls for projects, and we'll have another one in about 12 months. And we're also developing a white paper on the common agricultural data spaces with a number of other projects, which we hope to publish soon and run a little workshop around those. And you can find our social media handles there as well. But next slide, please. I just want to talk about some of the challenges and recommendations in terms of actually running a project of this kind of scale. First of all, you need to stick with FAIR principles. And again, that has been mentioned earlier in the day. Benchmarking for quality of the technology that we produce and for comparison of results is very important. Data semantics is another very important area, and that's why we're developing the agricultural information model. Data ownership obviously is a critical area. And actually requirements management as well is with multiple stakeholders. It's very important, but a very tricky thing to get right within the project, and something we're still dealing with. The important thing is to engage with all stakeholders at all times to be able to demonstrate the value of what we're producing, to have open data, and not to reinvent the wheel. You'll know, and everybody knows, certainly within the European scene, a lot of these projects, you know, they build software architectures and technologies. We should reuse them as much as possible, and we should reuse other people's platforms as much as possible as well to get new audiences for data. Next slide, please. Risk and issue management is also very important in projects like these. So within Demeter, we've got quite a complex project structure. It has the potential for silos to build up, where partners can sometimes just work away in isolation. And the COVID situation hasn't helped that really, because it prevents face-to-face communication. Next slide, please. So what we've implemented, just if anyone's interested in it within Demeter, is within our GitLab, we've got a risk and issue tracking system. And you can just see a couple of screenshots on it here. It's broken down into cross-work package issues, risk management itself, and then risks and issues for the individual work packages. Next slide, please. So you can see here, this is a board. I mean, for anyone who doesn't use GitLab, this is what it essentially looks like. This is a board where you can see your different open issues and deliverables and so on, and you can drag them through various different statuses. And it gives us one very easy way to monitor the entire status of the project. Next slide, please. So within here, then we can see any milestone within the project, what percentage complete it's at any particular point in time. And it makes management of a larger scale project like this more efficient. Next slide, please. Last piece of advice I'll give is to use your advisory board. Next slide, please. So within Demeter, we have an advisory board. You can see the members listed here. We've had one meeting to date. And again, you'll find a lot of EU projects sometimes say they'll have an advisory board and maybe they don't get as much use out of it as they can. But to me, at least, and to us in Demeter, this is very important. And his spot, Emilio, is there. But it's great to get a fresh set of eyes looking at your project after a certain amount of time to give feedback and constructive criticism and advice as your project progresses. So it's something I would really reinforce using. So like the key outcomes for us from our first advisory board meeting in December was it paves the way for us to be introduced to more farm advisory services and government agencies. It brings more linkages with related projects. It gives a more strategic approach to our agricultural data spaces. And it also highlighted the need for us to create real networking actions coming out of the project. And also to be cognizant of language and tech savviness of farmers. We're a slightly technology heavy focus within Demeter. And as we've heard again throughout the day today, it's important, everything can't just be in English, particularly when we're discussing our technologies with farmers as well. So very useful. The key takeaway there is use your advisory board as much as you possibly can. I think that's my 10 minutes. I think I've only one slide left. Yeah, so thanks for your time. My contact details are here. If anybody needs to ask me any follow-up questions, please contact me anytime.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you. Exactly your 10 minutes. It's a huge project. I know it's quite impossible to explain everything, but it's amazing project with a lot of interactions among other projects. Thanks for coming. So now we are moving to the north of Europe. We are going to the Swedish Agricultural University. Dr. Martin Melin, he will explain us about Next Food project. Martin, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much. And thank you for the opportunity to participate in this event. I will present for you the Next Food project. I'm Martin Melin from the Swedish University of Agricultural Sciences, and I'm the project coordinator. Next Food is a project funded by Horizon 2020. It's an acronym for educating the next generation of professionals in the agri-food system. It started 3 years ago and will go on for another year. Next slide, please. In this project, we develop new ways of educating the future sustainability leaders of the agri-food sector. And the purpose is to make sure that professionals, that is farmers, advisors, business representatives, and students have the right set of skills and competencies needed to tackle the sustainability challenges we face ahead. That is food security for all in the context of climate change, biodiversity loss, water scarcity, and increase in inequality. Next slide, please. We are 19 partners engaged in Next Food, most of them in Europe, but also in Egypt, Ethiopia, India, and Chile. Most of our partners are universities, but we also have NGOs, business networks, and intermediaries. and it is coordinated by Sweden. Next slide, please. A key research activity is the inventory of skills and competencies. It is based on a review of literature reporting on previous mapping initiatives, plus a survey and focus group interviews in several countries. The skills that will be needed in the future fall into these 7 main areas. The first one is navigating in a changing world, including lifelong learning and skills for complex problem solving and innovation. The second one is collaboration that will be needed to solve future sustainability challenges together with a diversity of stakeholders. Results particularly highlight the need for collaboration across disciplines and sectors. Systems thinking will be important to be able to understand the agri-food and forestry system as a larger whole. Digital and technical skills will be more and more important. Building and maintaining networks is also highlighted as important in the data. A lack of networks may have a significant influence on the ability to enact change towards sustainability. This involves skills such as communication, facilitation, and collaboration. Strategic development includes skills important for enacting strategic change, including socially sustainable leadership, corporate social responsibility, sustainable business model, etc. And the last one is being able to negotiate different aspects on sustainability. Next slide, please. We are also concerned with finding the gaps in existing agricultural and forestry education. We analyzed 21 courses and programs at partner universities at different levels in order to identify where the gaps are in these different skill sets. Systems thinking and knowledge integration were covered by a majority of the programs, while, for example, collaboration, networking, and lifelong learning were not catered for in most of the programs and courses. And this work continues by using an informatics approach, where we analyze data collected from more than 1,300 individual master's programs from 27 universities at 14 European countries. So we will get a very good picture on where the gaps in education are in relation to different regions in Europe. Next slide, thank you. And in NextFood, we promote an educational approach that challenges the conventional learning model, where knowledge is seen as a commodity that can easily be passed on to a passive receiver. Instead, our focus is a transdisciplinary and action-oriented learning model, where the students learn in interaction with practice, and farmers and field experts learn themselves. This educational model is tested in 12 case studies in different parts of the world, all representing different parts of the food value chain and different cultures and contexts. We analyzed the learning outcomes of more than 1,000 learners, and in these cases we have seen that students become lifelong learners by the development of critical thinking and self-direction in the learning process. They learn to work with change and adaptation by envisioning a future situation of the food and agriculture and food system. They learn how to collaborate and integrate different types of knowledge. They develop systems perspectives, they train networking skills, and they are motivated to become change agents. So many of the gaps that we have identified previously in existence in the educational systems are catered for by this action-oriented approach. And as an example, one of our cases run by the Iseki Food Association, that is a network of different actors in the food value chain. It is located in Vienna. And this case is a competition that are open to students online, and it takes place around the world. Each team of students will work on a real food industry-based problem in sustainability. And the students meet 6 times during the course with the course organizers and the advisory board, who are also experts on the topic. The idea is to decrease the traditional online lectures and try to incorporate action learning into the competition. And we do an online training with virtual visits to companies and also soft skills workshops online. Next slide, please. Another case is organized by Mekelle University in Ethiopia, which is about learning in farm training centers. These FTCs are multi-stakeholder platforms. The case is a short course in sustainable farm practices lasting for 10 days. It's organized 2 times each semester, and it is a part of our Master in Agroecology and Sustainable Development. The focus is on learning process of master students, advisors, and farmers. And the students, they learn from real life experiences of farmers outside of the classroom. They develop a case report that will help them to reflect on the present and future situation. And they get feedback from farmers and advisors and write a reflection document. Next slide, please. And then we have a case in Polenzo, Italy. They have several years of experience of running a short course in agroecology. And they have, this case have during the time in Exfood developed into a master course in agroecology and food systems with an experiential and action research learning approach. This program run in collaboration with the Slow Food Movement, which is a network of food entrepreneurs who actually created the university in 2004. And teaching is organized around study trips. Students take active part in the Slow Food's major events and do project work together with food producers. And based on Exfood research outputs and experiences, we will develop a roadmap for learners, teachers, and institutions for transforming education. And the idea of this roadmap is to enhance the supporting forces and find ways to deal with the hindering forces as well. Factors that support change are, for example, the positive learning outcomes of the Exfood educational approach. Another one is the toolbox that we have developed for teaching practitioners, and an audit tool that will guide institutions in this transformation. There are also a number of hindering forces, and one of the strongest one is the mindset of people involved in education and training that still believe that the old way of educating is the best. There are also a number of institutional and organizational barriers connected to how education is planned and implemented. And the third one is the stakeholder engagement, which sometimes is difficult, not always, but sometimes stakeholders don't always see the benefits of interacting in education. You can find more information on the Exfood homepage, and you can log into the platform where you will find tools and teaching tips, and there you can also sign up to our newsletter. Thank you very much.
So thank you, Martin. Excellent presentation and very useful, at least for those who are involved in university education. For sure, I will take a deep look into your website and your tools because I like to practice with my students. So thanks a lot. Now we have to move to the next project. Will be presented by Dr. Pierre Labarthe from INRA in France, and it's AgriLink. So Pierre, again, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Emilio, and thank you for inviting me to present AgriLink. So can you hear me? I think I was muted.
Yes, now we can hear you.
Okay, I was muted by someone. I'm sorry. That's not my. So I will start again because I don't know what you heard. So thanks for the invitation, Emilio, and the opportunity to exchange with so many interesting projects. So I will present you AgriLink. So AgriLink stands for Agricultural Knowledge, linking farmers, researchers, and advisors to boost innovation. So the aim of our project is to better understand the role of a specific type of actor, that is advisory services, in supporting farmers in their decision to adopt or not different innovation linked to sustainable development of agriculture. So to do so, we propose new concept and a very strong empirical content. Also, our aim is to try to enhance these services, to design new methodology for advisors through a cross-cutting methodology based on living labs that we organize with advisors. This project started already in 2017, so we are close to the end, only 6 months to go now. So I will propose briefly, briefly the project consortium, ambition and objective, and present on first achievements in terms of cross-cutting concept to give you a flavor of the empirical material we collect. I will present only one illustration of a result as we are maybe running a bit behind schedule. Then I will say a word about our living lab for advisory services and our interactive innovation activity, and a few words about dissemination and policy recommendations. So next slide, thank you. And next slide, please. So briefly, a word about the context and ambition of the projects. So the context of AgriLink is that there are at the moment some very strong expectations regarding advisory services. This is true in a policy framework, where it was very well illustrated in Inge's presentation in the introduction. So as you have seen in the new CAP and AKIS plan, but also in Farm to Fork, in the Green Deal, in Mission Soil, advisory services are targeted as a key instrument to support farmers into a sustainable transition of agriculture. At the same time, there are also very new interesting networks of practitioners. For instance, I won't cite them all, but for instance, the EU FRAS network, the European Forum for Rural and Advisory Services, promotes the European building of practitioners for advice and promote new methods for advisors. And there is also a strong reinvestment of research into advisory services. Since the FP7 program and very strongly in the H2020s, there have been several projects that target quite explicitly a better understanding and support of advisory services. And most interestingly, there is also a strong academic engagement in the communities. For instance, last week there was a European seminar on extension education organized by TIGASC, where more than 250 people participate in presenting research on extension and education. So I invite you to have a look to the website of this conference. So next slide, please. So our goal is, in the context, is to fill some knowledge gap. Indeed, even though there is a strong expectation about advisory services, we consider that there are still lots of knowledge gap about the actual role and functioning of advisory services. First, there is a strong knowledge gap about farmer use and needs regarding advice. And it's more and more true as there is a strong structural change into farm production and farm structure at the moment, with less farm, bigger farm, more employees, which may generate new needs for advice. There are also some gaps about advisory services themselves. There are new entrants into advisory markets, new suppliers, partly linked to digitalization, and we also need to better know this advisory supply in different contexts. And also there is new forms of advisory services. I think it was very well highlighted with a different project about IPM. There are new methods, new conception of advisory services, but we need to better acknowledge and describe. And last but not least, there are also new policy tools that were presented by Inge. There have been an investment of the European Commission on advisory services since 10 years, and we still need to learn better about what are the effects of these policies. So next slide, please. So how we want to contribute to filling this gap. First, we propose new concepts. The key concept that we propose is the concept of micro AKIS that describes the farmers' sources of services and knowledge at a micro level in their support to decide whether to adopt or not innovation. And we try to integrate this concept into a broader scale thanks to the farm advisory regime concept at a meso level. Second ambition is to go beyond usual suspects. We try to integrate, to start from farmers' perspective, but integrate different type of farmers. Farmers with atypical profile, but also mainstream profile. And we work both with farmers who adopt and did not adopt different type of innovation, as well as droppers as innovation to learn about the role of advice. We also integrate a very broad conception of advisory activity by integrating any supplier acknowledged as such by farmers. And also we try to work not only for technological innovation, but also for process marketing and organizational innovation. Another key feature of AgriLink, it is strong empirical content that I will present in the next slide. And the last one is a strong multi-actor dimension of the project in two dimensions. First, we try to keep the feet in the dust and to try to co-develop services that relate to today's sustainability challenges. And this is particularly true in the living lab that we are organizing that we set to try to co-develop and co-design innovative advisory services with advisors, farmers, and researchers. And we also try to organize a workshop together with SCAR AKIS working group to try to be responsive to the policy context and try to see how our result could help into better policy design. And next slide, please. So, I will skip this one. It's just a presentation of the consortium, but you can find all the information on the website about the diversity of our partners, university, research institute, and a wide range of different advisory organizations. So next slide, please. Could you go to next slide, please? Thank you. I will now present 5 key achievements of the project. So the first one is about new concepts. So next slide, please. As I said in my former slide, we have 2 key concepts, and the most important one, and the only one that I will present today, is this concept of micro-AKIS. In this project, we consider that farmers' decision to adopt or not an innovation goes through different steps. First, they got a trigger event, raise awareness of farmers about the potential innovation. Then farmers engage into an active assessment of the pros and cons of the innovation before implementing it and then consolidating the innovation. A key feature of AgriLink and what we call micro-AKIS is that we look at the different sources of advice and knowledge of farmers at different steps of this decision-making process, which enable us to better understand the role that advisory services play in farmers' decision-making. And we did this for different types of innovation. And we try to integrate this model of decision-making, which is at the center of the figure, with a broader institutional environment of farmers that we call farm advice regime, and that's a play on the well-functioning or gaps in advisory services delivery. So next slide, please. So the second key achievement is that to populate a finding based on this conceptual framework, we did a very strong effort of data collection. We did more than 1,000 interviews with farmers, adopters or non-adopters, for a quantitative database, but we did over 70 more qualitative and very in-depth narratives of farmers' uses of advisory services. This was complemented with over 300 interviews with a diversity of advisory suppliers. Next slide, please. So just a very short illustration of results that we produce. As you see on the figure that is presented, maybe a bit small on your screen, it's just that we describe which were the type of suppliers that farmers use in their services. So this is, for instance, in the case of technological innovation. What we show in terms of this micro-AKIS is, of course, as we could imagine, given the diversity of countries, that there is a strong heterogeneity of this micro-AKIS and sources of advice between farmers and between farmers in different type of innovation area. But there is a very interesting communality that these micro-AKIS tend to be rather small. And by small, we mean that each farmer rely on a very limited set of different sources of advice, but rather tend to trust one type of advice, regardless of the organization this advisor work for. I think I will skip there for the result, so you can go to the next slide, please. It was just an illustration. So next slide, please. Another key achievement that I would like to highlight is that we also not only try to understand how advice contribute to innovation, but we also try to contribute to a reflective thinking of co-design and how to enhance advisory services. And we did this by implementing 6 living labs in contrasted condition in Benelux, Italy, Latvia, Norway, Romania, and Spain, and for different type of innovation, from technology to technological to process and organizational innovation. And we had some success and failure with the living lab, but mostly what we did is that we really better learn what are the conditions to effectively run this co-design methodology for advisory services. and it's related to complexity of the challenges. This type of co-design living lab methodology work very well when the challenge to be solved is complex. You have to think about the enabling setting and a methodological preparation, but also you have to make sure that there is an initial energy to move shared by different partners. Next slide. I will be very brief on this one, which is about dissemination of results. Of course, you can find on the website links to conference and forthcoming special issues that we are working on. But I would like to emphasize one methodology that we use that we call the e-workshop, that is based on a methodology, on a very basic methodology where we use Google Docs to engage in discussion with a wide range of practitioners. And after a few weeks of debate on the Google Docs, then we have webinar to highlight the outcome and finding of the discussion, which is quite interesting. And we have at the moment one of these debates ongoing on the link between Living Labs for Advisory Services and AKIS at large. And it's still time to participate if you wish to join this third workshop of the project. Next slide, please. Yes, so thank you for your attention. I think I will stop there. You have a link to the website or Twitter account and my email address if you have any further questions. So thank you very much, Emilio, for this opportunity.
Thank you, Pierre. Excellent. I was just following your presentation, and it's kind of a Innoseta 2 or vice versa, clear similitudes, very close projects. You mentioned about the filling the gap. You mentioned training. You mentioned adoption. Even I saw in some pictures we are sharing some common partners. So we need to talk. We need to discuss in deep, because it will be nice to cross results and see which are the better. Thank you. Thanks a lot. So we are arriving to the very last one project. It's in this case, I'm in charge to give you some very, very brief words about what is Innoseta. This will try to save some time. So Jorge, if you want to share my last presentation, I will tell you what is the intention of Innoseta. Is the innovative spraying equipment training and advising. Next slide, please. This is the main objective, among others, but as we already mentioned in several presentations, filling the gap, trying to close the farmers with the research innovation. So close the gap between research and the daily agriculture. And that is where the name comes. Innovative practices for spray equipment, training and advising. This is the SETA. SETA in Spanish means mushrooms. So we are looking for mushrooms since the beginning of the project. Next slide, please. We have been working in 7 different hubs all around Europe, more or less, in different crops. It's in orchards, vineyards, greenhouses, and field crops, depending on the situation. Next slide, please. And the consortium is plenty of multi-stakeholders. We have representatives from the academia and research, manufacturers, from sprayers, and also for pesticides, farmers alone, and farmers and advisors, and farmers associations as well, located all around Europe. Next, please. So the main objective, the main goal has been, because we are close to the end of the project, to develop this Innoseta platform where all the material, or mostly all the material directly linked with the crop protection can be easily reached by farmers in different languages. So it's a very short video of 50 seconds just to see how the platform looks. No.
La idea principal de este proyecto es generar una plataforma online adecuada y ordenada, de forma que el usuario de los diferentes países y en función de sus necesidades pueda encontrar y sobre todo pueda implementar aquella información, aquellos desarrollos que ya están disponibles y que en muchos casos por desconocimiento o por dificultades a la hora de localizarlos, pues no puede servirse de ellos.
This is how the platform, the platform, Innoseta platform already looks like. It's already available. Next slide, please. So up to now, we are able to to offer to the stakeholders more than 1,000 entries classified in different projects at national and European level, articles, but mostly technical articles rather than research articles. More than 300 industrial solutions already in the market, since the very simple nozzles to the more sophisticated sprayer, and more than 400 training materials. Next slide, please. So the number of setas have been increased year by year. Of course, behind that, there is a huge work carried out mainly by our colleagues from the University of Turin in searching, classification, and location in a certain place and so on. So, but we are happy to offer more this 1,000 entries, and the platform is still alive. Next slide, please. So we already organized a webinar, a platform about the Innoseta platform late April, a couple of months ago. And we are really proud to tell you that we extended our activities out of Europe as well. So we had more than 250 attendees from the countries you can see there. And in the right side of the screen, what you can see is that the most evaluated material was training material. Again, training is a key point for the success, training and industry solutions. Next slide, please. During the 3 years of the activity, unfortunately affected by COVID, as the rest of the project, we organized several regional workshops, depending, focused in different crops, as field crops, orchards, greenhouses, and vineyards. Already organized all around Europe, some of those as a face-to-face activities, and some of those as virtual activities due to COVID. But in general, more than 800 attendants were arrived to these activities. Next slide, please. And then what we are doing right now is from this regional workshop where we presented and the attendants selected the most useful and most interested setas divided in 3 different thematics: spray quality and precise spraying, drip reduction, and point sources. We selected the most evaluated ones. We obtained different information, the reasons why, how to disseminate and benefits. Also, we got practical information about the policy, how was the policy adoption, suggestions and problems, and so on. And with all this information from the regional workshops, what we will do next Wednesday will be the transnational workshop. Next slide, please. This international online workshop is free accessible, will be next Wednesday in the afternoon again, organized by our colleagues from the EFEV and the AUA in Greece. Next slide, please. So some preliminary results linked to the policy actions and encountered difficulties from the end users is they focus interest about training, difficulties to adopt new technologies, also difficulties for internet connection. They prefer that subsidized should be linked to educational activities and some different other important topics we will be that will be published in the corresponding documents after the transnational workshop. Next slide, please. This is the very last slide. This is the consortium, the links of the partners of the consortium. And with this very last slide, I would like to thanks to all of you. And now I will give the floor to my colleague, Professor Fabrizio Gioeli from University of Turin, one of the partners of the project that together with my colleague Elena, they have been working in the results of the survey we conducted among the projects, and you will see really interesting conclusions about the difficulties, encountered problems, and potential solutions. So thank you very much to all of you, and I give the floor to Fabrizio.
Hello, grazie Emilio. Hello everyone. First of all, I wish to say a very big thank you to all the project coordinators or project responsible who found the time to fill up the questionnaire. And I'm waiting for the presentation to start. Here it is. Okay. So coming quickly to the results of the questionnaire, the first question was, what is your thematic area? And as you can see, most of the project falls into the sustainable agricultural thematic area, but probably many projects fit different thematic areas. Next one, please. About project size, the project on average are pretty big. With on the left hand side, you see the graph showing that about 70% of the project have more than 20 partners, and on the right hand side you can see that the budget in around 70% of the cases is higher than 4 million euros. Next one. Okay, about project progresses, in the first figure on the top part of the slide, you can see that more or less 40% of the project have entered the very last phase and are coming to the end, whereas we have about 30% of the project that are approaching the turning point. In the bottom part of the slide, you can see the accomplishment of the project objectives, and more or less the percentage are the same, with 40% of the project which accomplished more than 75% of their objective, and likely are the same project that are coming to the end. Next one, please. Okay, as we have heard today, many projects are developing digital tools and platform and so on. And the problem is how to keep these digital tools or platform alive. First information we got from the questionnaire is that the digital tools that have been produced will be kept alive for an undefined amount of time after the project end. Next one, please. And the majority of project coordinator or project responsible would like to keep control of their platform also at the end of the project, whereas some other project would prefer to have private companies or public institution as responsible for their platform or the digital tools. Next one, please. Now, coming to the bad part, the foreseen problems in keeping the platform or digital tools alive beyond the project end. Well, it's pretty obvious that problem number one is the economic part. How to pay for the platform, how to pay for the people responsible to feed the platform, and so on. Problem number two are legal problems, such as rights to keep the data online and so on. And third, that is very connected with point number one, how to update the platform, how to delete all the records, how to keep it up to date. Of course, if one is able to solve problem number one, it's very likely that we'll solve also problem number three. Next one, please. For one project, that the smart chain, the problem of a platform update is already solved, because according to a comment that I read on the questionnaire responses, the platform will be kept up to date thanks to 5 Horizon 2020 projects that are ongoing, and that will be ongoing also after the smart chain project end. Whereas for bureaucratic and economical issues, no solution have been found yet by the project partners, project coordinators, sorry. Okay, target stakeholders of the different projects. According to the responses we got, the most important stakeholders are farmers, as we have already heard today several times. Second place, advisor and manufacturers, then researchers and authorities. But interestingly enough, farmers are also the most difficult to reach stakeholders. So there is a mismatch between the most important stakeholder and the most difficult to reach stakeholder. It's again farmers. Then we have manufacturer, advisor, and authorities and researcher are the easiest, let's say, stakeholders to reach by every single project. The most interested stakeholders, according to the responses, are advisor and researchers, followed by farmers and authorities, and at the third place we have manufacturers. Next one. Okay, about project dissemination. Well, about 50% of the project already had or expect to have difficulties in disseminating the results, especially in rural areas. The reasons are several. First of all, farmers may not really be motivated by the project goals, and sometimes the project goals are in contrast with their expectation. Let's say, for example, they are afraid that a project dealing with pesticides reduction would affect their yield, probably. Then we have language barriers, no internet connection in some parts of Europe, lack of time, because very often, I'm pretty sure you are aware of that, when you try to get in touch with a farmer, he replied to you, well, at the moment I don't have the time to do that because I have my own business to take care of. COVID-related issues, and also travel distances between the farm and where the activities takes place. About the dissemination tools, the preferred ones are face-to-face events, social networks at the second place, internet papers and media, and also here we received a comment underlining that agricultural journalists sometimes are not very active in disseminating a EU project. Sometimes they are more prone to, more available when it comes to the dissemination maybe of a regional or more local project. The reason is unknown. Next slide. Okay, what the most used social media are? Well, as you can see, Twitter and especially YouTube. Next one. But the most effective seems to be Twitter, and with effective, I guess we are considering the number of followers, number of retweet, and so on. So YouTube doesn't seem to be very effective. Next one. Okay, project dissemination, again, organized or upcoming events to engage with stakeholders. As you can see here, there is a list of events divided into physical meetings, online meetings, conference, webinar, on-site demonstration, and so on. And if you put together the physical meeting and the on-site demonstration, as you can see, you will have the majority of events. The reason likely is because we all are still convinced that physical meetings with farmers, with stakeholders are the most effective ones. Next one. Language of the project, dissemination materials. English is present 100% of the time, and this is pretty obvious. And then we have a bunch of languages from French to Portuguese, German, Greek, and so on, and one language for each project partner. Again, the next one, sorry. How often the project is disseminated in a language different than English? More or less, the English is the project is disseminated in English more than 50% of the time by one project out of 3, 50% of the time one project out of 10, and less than 50% of the time by more or less half of the project. Next one. Okay, about the opinion of the coordinator, the majority of coordinators consider that the farmers are not enough informed about the EU project, and in general that EU project activities are not enough known by stakeholders in general. But also that coordinators consider that there are too many overlaps between the European projects. This meaning probably, let's say, a lower efficacy of the projects. Then, unfortunately, just one slide about COVID-related issues. Almost all projects were affected somehow by the pandemic, and coordinators and partners of this project started to put in place some actions to overcome the problems. Mostly they intensified meetings with associated stakeholders. They increased the activity on the web. They produced several multimedia tools and so on to keep the project alive and the dissemination alive. Next one, please. And always according to the coordinators, this intensification of online meetings and especially of multimedia tools were the most effective measures that let's say to overcome the COVID issues. Okay, about adoption of new technologies, the degree of acceptance of new technology among stakeholders. This is let's say a ranking. At the first place, we have researchers that I think it's pretty clear. Manufacturers, authorities, advisors, and farmers. But and farmers, why are not so prone to accept the new technologies? For several reasons. They consider and by the way, this concept was already mentioned in one of the very first projects that was presented. What's the reason why they are not so open to new technology? Because sometimes they are too complicated, they consider to be sometimes too expensive, they don't consider to be trained enough, they consider that sometimes new technologies are only suitable for big farms, or in case the new technology needs an internet connection, is not, let's say, 100% sure that they have an internet connection in the field, for example. Next one. Then about policy, level of knowledge and implementation of the EU legislation among the stakeholders, high level of knowledge and implementation. The categories are with the highest level of knowledge and implementation are have been considered to be authorities, researchers, and advisor, medium level manufacturers, and low farmers. And then very last slide, what are the main beneficiaries of the project outcomes based on the responses we had? National authorities, first place, second place, local, let's say regional authorities, and third, European authorities. To be honest, here you see, well, first, second, and third, but if you check the results of the questionnaire, the numbers are very close, one to another. But there's, let's say, there are slight differences between national, local, and EU. That's the reason why we have this ranking. Okay, thank you for your attention, and I leave the floor to Emilio for discussion.
Thank you, Fabrizio. Thank you, Lena, for your excellent work. Yeah, I know you have been working during the weekend in order to have this information ready for today. As we have been talking during the afternoon, most of the, let's say, encountered problems have been underlined by Fabrizio. Let's say, as overlapping difficulties to reach farmers, difficulties for adoptions, and so on. I think it has been a very nice and interesting afternoon and presentation of the project. We have seen different perspectives from different expertise, and now it's time to, maybe all of you are really chariot, and I hope there will be still attendance of the external audience with some questions or whatever. So now we are in the discussion time. The floor is open for everyone to put questions or whatever you consider. So feel free. Just turn on your microphone and start. Maybe I should start because I have some thinking or question that has been underlined by Fabrizio and after all the projects. And maybe I'm wrong, but my feeling is...
Emilio, excuse me. Inge raised her hand.
No, it's fine. It's fine. Emilio, go ahead.
Okay.
No. Just I put on the table that question. Do you think we should do something in order to avoid overlapping or duplicities in terms of materials and platforms, and because it takes a lot of time and effort and money, and it's just question to all of you, or maybe Inge, you should.
Yeah, well, indeed, it was also the overwhelming impression that you get after these 10 or all the presentations that there's a lot of overlap. But I noted, and I had my highlighter here with me, so each one has something specific that still brings something to me. So it's not entirely overlap. And we should not always say that overlap is bad, because the partners may be in other countries, so they may be reaching another public. But in my view, as a European project, it is overall for everybody very difficult to come to the ground, to really the farmers on the ground and to have contact with them. That's exactly why we have now these operational groups. In operational groups, they are really coming from ideas of farmers, or farmers are involved. And one of our studies about operational groups even show that you have your operational group with, of course, the core, the coordinator, and the main partners, and then a few partners with lesser actions, maybe the one who does the communication or the brochures, or I don't know what. But you have several circles. But outside farmers are inside, a few, never 100, but around that operational group, that up until 100 farmers, and we were ourselves surprised, up until 100 farmers are looking what's happening in the group and are secretly testing and copying and looking, would that work for me, yes or no? So I believe very much in this connection with operational groups, between European projects and operational groups, because that's the way, I think, to come really down to that level of the farmer and who is influencing. I remember Pierre saying, farmers listen to very few people. They have one or two people that they trust, and the rest is all at the further level and is not so obvious. And who do they trust most? We also have studies for that. It's their trusted advisor, and then family or best friend farmer, or people who are really very close to them. So I think those are the ones that with operational groups you touch upon. And if you can connect those with your multi-actor projects at EU level, each one in his own country probably, I think you would have more connection with the farmers. And what might still be a bit living with the researchers who are doing European projects is that up until Framework Program 7, that was, so before Horizon Europe, it was in fact an obligation to work for policy outcomes. That was what was requested. And a number of researchers are still in that mood, and they are producing things for policy, and they forget that now with multi-actor projects, we are asking to produce for the practitioners. So, I mean, we're probably in a kind of transformation phase. And the fact that operational groups are and have been difficult to find, that we have a variety of platforms, are all things that we try to tackle with our new policy. You've seen we have a new unique EU platform that will interlink with all the other platforms. So we will try to make this interoperable with all demonstration platforms, already with Farm Demo, with I2 Connect, that's the advisory platform for innovation support, Fair Share. We are already testing whether they follow the same standards and IT languages, so that we can pick up what they do and link that all to this unique EU platform that will be built. So we hope on the longer term that not one project should depend on the next one to come, because that's not a sustainable situation. And we then, once that has been built through a Horizon project, once it's there, we have our EIP facility, which continues year after, well, 7 years after years. They have a 7 years period, and then they start again a 7 years period, exactly as a CAP regulation, 7 years, and Horizon 2, by the way. And then they can manage, in fact, these platforms and also this interaction with the platforms. So this is a bit our hope to bring European projects closer, thanks to the CAP networks. Remember what I said in the beginning, CAP networks have an important role. There was another presentation who also said we will contact CAP networks. Everybody should contact, any project should contact the CAP networks of the future, because they will be the ones who manage, who take up that knowledge, and will be in contact with the rest of the AKIS, the farmers organizations, very important, cooperatives, whoever is in contact with the farmers, and definitely the trusted advisors. I remember one of the projects saying that they did a survey with the advisory bodies, but more than half of the advisors are just one-man companies that are not belonging to the big bodies. So they all stay below the radar, they are hardly known, but they are the ones who are influencing the farmer. It's very important to have all advisors in the bath, public, private, big, small, to cover them all, and to get them in that AKIS better informed with what you are doing in all these projects, instead of reinventing the wheel. And maybe it's too early to say that, but maybe on the longer term we can make with the coordinators maybe regular platforms and networks that come together, so that we ensure that we're not doing the same. In 2022 there will be a project on preparing multi-actor projects, because with operational groups we have very good experience in this preparation. And there you discover, you look for information on your subject, and you discover, there's already one doing this, and maybe I can go and listen. Maybe he has a solution, or he doesn't have it, and maybe we can work together because he already has certain elements on what I want to do. So this preparation of multi-actor projects we don't do, although it's very helpful. And these innovation support facilities, whatever name you give it, back office or innovation support service or whatever, they are the ones that should be helping with finding. They should have a very good network, and they should be able to help find people who are already on a certain subject and bring these people together. We have in Schleswig-Holstein a dedicated innovation support service run by the Chamber of Agriculture. And for the operational groups, they are the one-stop hub. Everybody who has an idea for an operational group goes there. and sometimes there are 3 with a similar idea, and then they manage, shouldn't you work together, and maybe you can do your project together, and they just merge the operational groups with all interested into one project, and that's nice. But still, I want to repeat, not all repetition is bad. I still remember we had demonstration projects, and then there were leader projects doing almost the same as we did. And at that time, I thought this is useless. But then taking more distance, and after 5 years, you see that other people have listened maybe to the same message, and maybe have learned something that you didn't manage in your first project. So repetition is not always bad, but of course it's better if we can coordinate, and that's also why we need these AKIS at national level that can follow what's happening, that can connect with European projects, that can connect with the operational groups and the CAP networks. And well, let's hope that this solves a little bit of what was coming out of the survey.
Sure. No, it's true. Not always repetition is bad. You're right. We have a lot of ways to meet people, to join people, and to join common efforts. Great. But sometimes it's a lot of information. I think Pierre, raise your hand, Pierre.
Yes, but it will be very short because it partly relates to what Inge said. So the first one, I agree that redundancy can also be a quality sometimes, because different platforms may reach different audience. So you have to, sometimes it's just complementarity and different way to approach different audience. And on this issue of targeting farmers, I also consider sometimes it's expecting too much from a H2020 project. I mean, some projects should actually target farmers, and it's great, but other, in AgriLink, we tried very little to target farmers because we saw it was a bit out of our scope. So we made lots of effort to target advisors because we saw this was our main relevant target. I mean, when drafting practice abstract, when organizing workshop, e-workshop or face-to-face workshop and different types of events, the people we think about are advisors, very different type of advisors, as Inge said. And I think that's something that we need to critically address in the Horizon project. That the agricultural sector is very rich in intermediaries and different type of collective organization of farmers. And of course, that depends from one context to another. But I think this organization, pre-existing organization, should be our main target in many contexts. And some of them are already well established, but others, as Inge said, are in many countries there are lots of some or many independent consultants or different type of organization that we try to integrate. So yeah, really it's a matter of targeting. And sometimes I think in too many, we would have the tendency to say, okay, let's target farmers, but I'm not sure we always have the capacity. In certain more experimental or demonstration setting, yes, farmers may be the target, but in other projects, I think we have to think about intermediary as main targets.
Thank you, Pierre. I think I absolutely agree with you. Farmers is the final target, but I think the most easily and the very beneficial is advisor. Teresa, you want to say something?
Yes, Emilio. It's just kind of a follow-on from Inge and I suppose Pierre comments in terms of targeting advisors. Because obviously Fair Share, what we were trying to do was target advisors throughout that project. And our experience of it, even in terms of when we were trying to select external user cases. So we were giving funding to advisors and to help them embed digital tools. And we actually found that to be quite a challenge to get advisors to come forward and to come up with ideas. In one case, we were launching funding across different regional hubs, and we actually had to re-tender in Northeastern Europe and to try and get more kind of publicity around it and try and really put an effort into it. So it did take quite a lot to actually get user cases on board, even with the money side of it being there. And I suppose also in terms of our DATS inventory, we are very much so relying on advisors coming forward with the tools that they use, uploading the information on it, or even giving us descriptions. And sometimes I think they feel that perhaps, you know, it might not be their role. You know, if it's a commercial tool, then of course, you know, people are quite happy to come with you to get their data uploaded. But if it's a more kind of a public or a free tool that advisors or advisory services might have done themselves, they might think that might be someone else's job rather than theirs to actually promote the tool. So I suppose they're just some of the kind of difficulties from the fair share perspective in terms of what we've experienced. And I don't know if Pierre or others have had similar, but that's just to give, I suppose, an outline to some of you here today of what we've experienced from that.
Really, really. Thank you, Teresa. Inge.
Yes, the difficulty of getting advisors and farmers, both in fact, involved, may also be linked with a question that I often get, how do you pay for farmers and advisors? Because both of them, the time they put into a project, whatever research project, innovation project, is lost time for them. Only the real enthusiastic, curious people, often the young ones, where there's still a father who's at home running the business, running the farm, are the ones who want to jump into these things, non-paid. And still in a number of countries, it is like not done to pay for the time that they spend in the project, even if they help the project to put one step further. So I think we should seriously think about, and the same goes for operational groups, it's not only multi-actor projects, but everywhere where you make use of the knowledge of advisors or farmers to make it public knowledge, you have to acknowledge that they are also working for that project as well as a researcher or anybody else, and that they probably need some payment for that, because if they would not be there, they would be advising a farm and they would be getting money for that if they are private advisors. If it's public extension services, that's another case. But for private advisors, and certainly the smaller companies or the one-man companies that might not even be known, I think it's key to ensure that there's also a reward against that, because they feel very unequally treated. It's also psychology.
You're right. I think sometimes the collaborative farmers, it's difficult to find them, and then after months working together, you feel that they are losing their time. That there are a lot of other activities, but fortunately, we're still happy with the collaboration for farmers. Is there any other comments in this end? Yeah, Nicolas, go ahead.
Just one comment. I'm not really, from my side, I'm not really concerned about hitting the farmers, because it's in the heart of the project I'm representing, IPM Works. We are working with farmers. But what I am more concerned about the sustainability of platforms, because we have seen many very nice job on very nice platforms, bringing some information to the farming communities, farmers and advisors and so on. But we have seen also that I think none of our projects have granting solutions for the sustainability of the platforms. So this is my main concern, because we will have no solutions. So there is a big risk that the platforms, they are not maintained after the end of the project. So I think we share this problem.
Absolutely agree. As Fabrizio already showed, at least our opinion after 10 projects is the main problem for sustainability is linked with business, with the economy. So it's a question of resources. If we have resources, we will be able to maintain our platforms. Because I'm just thinking, I started to think in the beginning of the project together with the rest of the partners. Now we are approaching to the end. what will happen in this case with Innoseta platform after 4 years working and after more than 2 million euros invested. It will be closed in a box. We are able to continue working, but it's quite difficult. So Nicolas, you're right. And we are looking for some solution. Unfortunately, none of you raised your hand with the solution. Javier, maybe Javier.
No, I mean, I can tell you quickly our experience with the Smart Chain project. As I can imagine, this is more or less the same for all of you. We are all involved in new proposal, writing proposal for new project. So during the preparation of this new call for the Horizon 2020, we were involved at the University of Guggenheim. We are the World Packet Communication Dissemination Leader for COFRESH. ISEC is our partner in Smart Chain dealing with the platform. So we agree they were in a competitor consortium. So we agree during the writing preparation phase that in any case, if any of these two projects will be funded, we'll be able to use the platform. At the end, both consortium were funded, and we were lucky enough to talk to the other sister project for these two calls from Horizon 2020, in total 5 different projects that we agreed that we are going to use and continue the maintenance on feeding the platform with new results from this project. For sure, we face the problem that Smart Chain is focusing on shared supply chain, and any of these 5 projects is focused on shared supply chain. In some of them, they are apart, but we agree that we are going to make wide the focus of the platform, so that it will be an innovation platform for value chain. So this is a huge box. We can put the result of these 5 different projects, and the idea will be to continue. As soon as any of the partners of this consortium are writing a new proposal in this direction, they can include in the proposal that they are going to use the innovation platform in the future. So up to now, we have until I think 2024 ensure that the innovation platform will be used, and this is a long time. Hopefully, some other consortium with partners involved in the platform are funding in Horizon Europe, and they will be able to continue with the use of this platform. So this is one example. For us, it worked pretty well, and I can imagine for the Commission is something that they really want to have, because it's as you say, it's not only the financial. I know it's a huge investment, but it's also the work behind. All the partners, the whole consortium bringing a lot of interesting result. Material is a pity that disappeared after the official end of the project. So this is, maybe this example can help to other consortium to continue in this direction. Because for sure, if we don't have funding support, this is not possible.
For sure. Thank you, Javier. I already took notes about your suggestions, and I will go to immediately. Inge wants to say something.
We cannot hear you, Inge. You need to put your microphone on.
Yeah. It will not always work that you end up with the winning consortium. There's an evaluation phase. You can do your best. You can present yourself. But I know in REA that the evaluators are being told that it's even part of the multi-actor definition. That you have to show the added value. It is not because you've done already something in that field that automatically you will get the next project. Sometimes it's even counterproductive. We had under the first 2 demonstration projects, we had 1,500 European farms. It was a nice inventory we're going to use on our EIP website. Well, in the next project, it has been reduced to 1,000, because if you don't support this and really actively stay involved with these people during your project, you lose people who are willing to do a demonstration. So we really have to build a bigger system around that. And the idea of having now this knowledge reservoir, and then bit by bit and piece by piece, connecting that to the existing platforms, is in fact what we see as the step towards one bigger EU repository with all the materials that you all make, whether you call it platform or you give it another name. this is, I think, the only way to long-term sustainability, open source, wanting to give your information. After all, it's 100%. That was not the case in the past, I understand. But since Horizon 2020, 100% is paid by the Commission. So it should all be open source. It's all public money. It should all be open source. And once we are there and everybody is realizing that, then we can really start using it and interconnecting everybody in a respectful way, using common standards and IT language. For instance, on the website, I saw a lot of PDFs. We know on beforehand now already from the Eureka project, because they've been in contact with DG Digit, our DG, who is responsible for solutions on the Europa website, that certain languages and certain standards have much more difficulties with PDFs than with Word documents. It's super simple, but the advice is use Word documents and not PDFs. And if like these basic principles, we can share them with all our projects, and everybody knows, we try to work with Word documents and not with PDFs. Same thing with the photos. For photos, you have JPEG and you have different types of photo, and also there, some work less. So normally Eureka, at the end of their project, I'm not sure if the coordinator is still here, but at the end of their project, we expect from them that they open source, give you all the information that what is the best format to work in. And so in this way, we work step by step to interoperability, so that people don't have a multitude of platforms that I understood everybody wants to keep his own platform, because it's also profiling yourself. I have all respect for that. I can understand that if I would be in your place, but that can also be done within a bigger scheme, I think. That's also possible to say, look, this part of the platform has been made by, and you put your logo and your partners, etc. But first you need this common language and also this multilingual, not just the 8 or the 9 languages of the partners, but also the rest of the, 15 languages that are not there. So if you have an automatic tool to translate all that, it also enriches your platform. But you have to be open enough to make it open source and to give it into the hands of somebody who can connect it with more things, so that in the end, on the longer term, I'm talking about 10 years or maybe longer, farmers and advisors have one place to go to find practice information. And then look with categories and with this smart search word. That's why my presentation in the beginning was a little bit too long, but it was important to tell you that we are working on that. Our Director General is crazy about this. He wants this. So, and in science, we have this. There's a possibility with all these scientific publications to look into the journals and to find the highest impact. But with practice-oriented information, there's nothing existing. We have to start from scratch. So bit by bit, we are trying. This first project came up by a number of thematic networks who said, we're all doing the same. We're all making a thematic network. We're all making a new website. We are not website builders, we are technicians, we are researchers in applied research, this or that. So for us, it's not easy to have a public procurement and to find an IT provider to make a very nice website. Why shouldn't we do that together? So that was the first project, that was URACNOS. And then we picked it up and made a feasibility study for a real EU knowledge platform for that. That's Eureka. They're working 2 years, should be finalizing, I think also with some COVID extra months, but normally it should be finishing end of this year. So it could be that it's beginning of next year. But once we know what comes out of that, the next step is really to make it work and to interconnect also with the physical events that within the AKIS strategic approach and the CAP, the countries will have to do. So I would say this is the way to go, and not to stay each one on its own patch, to try to work together in an open source format, and those who bring it together will need to respect also the profiling of the people who made that. I think that's logic. That's going to be a bit the challenge, to find the right balance there. So it's not easy.
I know it's not easy. Otherwise, we should be on the beach instead of being here.
That's right.
You are right. It's a great initiative, URACNOS, and then Eureka. Our common objective is to help the end users at the end. So the ideal situation of having everything in just one platform in all the languages will be perfect. But step by step, I fully agree with you. I think Pierre, raise your hand.
It was just to say goodbye, because I really need to leave now. So thank you, Emilio, for the invitation, and I wish you a good discussion if you continue. See you. Goodbye.
Thank you, Pierre, for your time. Thank you to all of you. I know we have spent a lot of time. I'm a kind of disaster as an organizer of this, coordinate those events, but I'm really happy about the final results. I think we have been following, but not so bad number of external attendance. We received several good comments, and then our purpose, if you agree, is we will prepare a first draft of the common conclusions or ideas and so on. We will circulate among all of you, and for sure it will be a good tool to improve the general scenario. So I really would like to thanks to all of you, from Jorge in Zaragoza. They are managing all the technical system. I looking at the YouTube, and it looks really nice from the outside. Really thanks to all of you for your passion and your time. I congratulate the effort you are doing in your projects. I learned a lot on these 4 hours, and especially Inge, thanks a lot for your time, for your explanations. Really, you gave us really key points to be in the safe side. So thanks. Welcome to our Innoseta family, and see you soon, right?
Emilio, you are the one who initiated that, so we should thank you. For me, it was a very nice way of, in a relatively short time, to know about all 10 projects, the main things, nice discussions, good survey, really well done. Thanks a lot.
Great. Gracias.
Yes, I do agree. Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Thank you very
everyone.
much.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Ciao, ciao.
Bye-bye.